Hello. Welcome. It's Friday. It's the weekend for those who celebrate. If you're not having to work, I'm grateful for this. I was styling my hair after the recent cut. There's a few hairs I need to be cutting, but it still is pretty coppery. But I have at times wanted to try that out, so I guess we're doing that. Maybe the next time I get it done, which often it takes me like a year to get around to doing this, I'll probably go darker with the color. I feel like that matches my vibe. Anyway, oh, I guess I should get out the chat. That would be helpful. Welcome. It's another day, another stream in fascist America. Welcome to whatever this is, an attempt at providing education, advocacy, and a little common sense in this digital wasteland. I'm Aubri Devashrayee. Welcome and namaste to the people who are here interested in creating a better world, those who have good intent, who are wanting to learn, share resources, engage in robust discussion, good faith criticism. And to the people with ill intent, may you receive what you give. Okay, so as we do on Fridays, it's Culture Corner. We have a number of things that I've been wanting to talk about, some submissions that we have gotten from chatters, especially for people who are in the Discord. You can apply to be part of the Discord. Please include your username in the form to apply to the Discord, because this is a way I am weeding out people so that they do not pollute the place with their idiocy and fascism. When you are applying, please be sure to put your username. So if you are part of the Discord, I am more likely to choose the stuff that you have submitted to show for Culture Corner. But as a disclaimer, not everything that is submitted I will choose to share, because I have personal taste and I choose the things that align with my own personal taste. So I reserve this right. Hello, Linton. Welcome. How are things with you? All right. So for Culture Corner, we have a number of things that I would like to go over. I also want to go over some things within perceived culture, what we are viewing as culture, who is dictating what is considered culture, how we view ourselves and other people. Linton, this is something that you submitted, the art form of zajal. We met our follower goal. Oh, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Welcome. Welcome to this community. We will be going over zajal and the history of it. So that is something that you submitted, Linton. I'm very excited to learn about that and also watch and listen to this new song by Sereen. Hello, American Burnout. Glad to have you here. We are working on a collaboration together, so I'll be sure to let you all know about that as it's happening. Linton, you have a 25 stream streak? Holy shit. Thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate you. It is always wonderful to have you here. Also, for those who don't know, the emojis that Linton just used, emojis, they're emotes. Whoops. Was that a boomer thing to do? I don't know. Who cares? Linton created them, and they are amazing. I love this little community that we have here. We also have a couple more of these song submissions that we will be going over. And then I did want to show a video on the history of the origins of the goddess of witchcraft, Hecate, because this is particularly pertinent with what we are reading for literature story time, Macbeth, in case you didn't know. If you are interested in catching up, you can access those clips on the YouTube that I have created. Also, as a shout out, American Burnout. They have some great content on YouTube that you can check out, subscribe, go support them. And then we will finally get into the reading of Macbeth. Sound good? The flag attempts will take some time. Organically flowing stuff is pure fuckery. I mean, that is really difficult. I feel like that's difficult to draw, let alone animate. You know what I mean? I am very appreciative and honored that you would even be willing to explore that. I love the art that you've been creating just in general, but especially like what you've been able to contribute here just really warms my heart. All right, shall we start off with a humorous video from The Onion? This is Tradwife explains what happened to good Christian conservative men. I don't know what this has in store for us, but let's check it out.
Liberals weren't content with just killing God. No, they wanted to kill traditional Christian values too. The American family is dead now, and it's all their fault. Doesn't it feel that way?
Yeah, because they're in power and are being oppressed. We know this. I have an adult drink for today. Weekend fun. Good skilled practice. Might as well put the practice to good use. I mean, I am grateful, certainly. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, though. Just make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Especially when you look at the facts. It feels that way to me, doesn't it to you? Oh, I'm sorry. You have permission to speak. For 35 years, I was part of the problem. A mouthpiece for the mainstream media.
Oh, that's great. I love that. I love that. Like a good, well-behaved conservative woman. She was not speaking unless she was given permission to do so. Oh, that's amazing. They're fun to work on. Oh, well, then I'm glad. I'm glad and also still honored that you would even be doing that in your free time.
Spewing their lies and kissing their feet, all while they turn me into something I'm not. But now I'm free of my corporate shackles, and my only business
He's a cop?
is freedom. My name is Jim Haggerty, and you are being lied to.
Is he supposed to be... So I know Tim Heidecker is doing like the satirical Alex Jones impression. Is he doing what's his ass Steve Bannon?
I'm here today with Callie McLean. She used to be a mainstream liberal parenting expert, but now you're an author and an influencer who's fighting feminism, godlessness, and pornography, all from the safety of her farm with her beautiful Aryan children. And you are a
Her
self-proclaimed trad
Aryan
wife.
children.
Well, I actually find that to be a bit of a reductive term, if I may. I prefer traditional wife.
And what does that mean?
Well, Jim, it means in my house, we teach the real differences between being a boy and being a girl.
Oh, traditional gender norms.
Exactly. And because upholding those traditional gender norms are so important to me personally, I live 18 hours a day inside of a crate when my husband is at work or in bed.
Oh, you crate.
Oh, yes. And I think every mom should. I know
Crate their kids. Jesus Christ. You know, sadly, this does happen at times. And being able to just kind of, as you whip out these masterpieces, it is cool. I hope you can find, like, you can feel that pride that when people are using the emotes. Like, I am astounded at your talent, grateful, and that's one of the things I love about streaming is being able to connect with people and also highlight amazing art that normally does not get highlighted, especially from us common people in the working class. I was saying to my partner, like, the hearts of Kit and Juniper, I'm like, this is the most they've ever gotten along. Of them making hearts together. They will occasionally, like, be laying by each other, but it's like, I love that we're sending that energy towards them. I also need to be more invested in, I probably need to do more research and, like, reacclimate them to one another. So I'm probably failing as a pet parent, but we're working on it.
called tolerant left doesn't want to hear this, but women love being confined in small, dark spaces for long periods of time. It's comforting.
Well, yeah.
Oh, she wasn't
These
talking about her kids in the crate. Was she? Or was it her? I mean, it's probably all of them, let's be honest.
feminists, they talk a big game about wanting equality, and yet they hate the crate?
I can't tell you how many wives I know who got left out while their husbands were away and ended up scratching holes in the furniture or getting into the people food.
Oh, you're not allowed in the people food.
I actually brought mine with me today, just in case I misbehave.
Oh, it looks cozy.
Yeah. So typically, my husband will lure me in with a piece of
Yeah. Since this isn't a consensual situation, I mean, like, if she wants that, cool. Actually, kind of kinky. Very kinky in many ways. But with it being like, this is where women need to be, it's like, okay, that's an issue.
and then after a few minutes, I just curl up and fall right asleep.
Wow, you know, it's about time people started waking up to this.
This is what real female empowerment looks like.
Sorry, liberals. Women love shock collars that prevent them from leaving the yard. They love being muzzled when guests come over. They love the cone. Oh, I'm sorry. You have permission to exit the crate now.
Thank you. You know, my family's never been happier. The kids really love rattling my cage, and my husband really appreciates that he gets to take up the entire.
This is so kinky. This is so kinky if it wasn't so oppressive. Which is why something that we do here is constantly needing to define and redefine what consent even means, because it's like, if this is actually a consensual relationship that isn't based on, like, gender roles and oppression of, like, you need to do this because you're a woman, this is where you belong, but, like, if you're genuinely like, I like being in a cage and I like being told what to do, then yes. But, like, why it's so important to know the difference of, like, if you are genuinely consenting to these conditions in a way that is kinky, where you have these negotiations and it can be revoked at any time. That is the main issue, is that consent is always revocable, rather than just growing up and feeling like you are taught to like certain things because of these gender norms to justify these systems of oppression like patriarchy and cis heteronormativity.
Bed now that I get put out in the garage. And our impregnation sessions have never been better.
Wow.
Oh,
I don't masturbate anymore.
How did you do it?
I used to be addicted to porn. I would jerk it to anything, bro.
this is a fake ad. Can I tell you, living in Utah, especially, there are so many fucking ads like this. There was one time I like made a new account to be lurking in certain places. And especially without it like imposing gender on you right away, there were so many like Christian, like manosphere, anti-porn shit that's like, I'm addicted to porn. That's like, how about if people were allowed to be themselves and be sexual in a consensual way, or not be sexual in a consensual way if they are wanting, but not have all of this be imposed, then there wouldn't be all of this weirdness and guess what? All of these things that are saying like stop the addiction now, it fuels addictions. So imagine that. The Reagan portrait in the back, I know.
I mean, anything. And anytime I with my I felt further away from God. But then I downloaded the FAP Reporter.
How does it work?
Anytime I masturbated, I logged it on the FAP forum. I told everyone what I did and what I did it to until I became so ashamed.
This is
that I
like the
stopped.
app that
Shame's
Mike
good.
Johnson
Now I
uses
never
with his
masturbate.
son.
It's like
It's
not November,
so weird,
but
and also
forever.
to be like monitoring your like
accountability, bro.
son's porn
No fap.
usage is so fucked up.
Forever.
Forever.
No fap. And then they
Stop
start
fapping
jerking
forever.
each other
Download
off.
the FAP Reporter now.
You have a teenager, right?
I do.
Like, so we can't masturbate, but like we're doing this in a straight way. We're like going to like empower each other in like, so you aren't masturbating, like we're showing solidarity by like helping each other out, but that doesn't mean we're gay. Like as long as we say no homo, then it means it's not gay.
This is 15, my youngest is 2, and I have 3 sets of twin boys in between.
So they probably all know what's cool, what the coolest trends are.
They really do.
So would they think it was cool, and I'm just spitballing here, if I was murdered just for my conservative beliefs?
I'm not sure.
Or what if I was injured but not fully dead, maybe just grazed by a bullet, for example?
I don't know.
You homeschool your kids, right?
I do, and I get to talk
Because
about
she's
this
not
a little
allowed
bit on
to
my
have
social media
opinions?
when I'm given phone time. It has been just so rewarding to be able to shield them from the outside world.
What made you decide to start homeschooling?
Well, school bathrooms for one.
Okay, don't get me started on that. I think we can all agree that whether it's at school or in public or anywhere else, children should not be using bathrooms, period.
Absolutely not.
I mean, have you heard what they're
I
putting
like
in the
the
toilet?
subversion of that. Like they're going to be talking about trans people, trans kids who are already just going through so much, and like having society target kids where it's like, oh no, kids just shouldn't be going to the bathroom. I love that.
These days, it doesn't even taste the same.
I make all of my own toilet water out of my breast milk.
And then you've got these leftist medical schools coming up with potions and treatments that are supposed to keep women alive during childbirth.
You know, women are not supposed to live past the age of 25. I should have died during all 8 of my childbirths, and it is a national disgrace that I am still here today.
It just feels like being...
Oh. This is this is like hitting close to home. Oh my God. Especially being in Utah, of the norm of like her saying like she has so many kids and being so young, of like as many of you know, I went to BYU, the college that is Mormon, and like when I was in the dorms as a freshman 18, 19, around that age, I had roommates who felt like they were washed up because they weren't married. And the pressure to have kids immediately cannot be understated in Mormonism, of saying like that is your purpose when you get married in the temple, that is what you promise to do, is to multiply and replenish the earth. So it is a way to keep women oppressed. And what happens is that you have these young people who are extremely poor a lot of the time, have not had any sort of like sexual experiences, exploration, and they're like there's a reason why there is all this turning to like other forms of like sexual gratification when people have not had the chance to like explore and be themselves, of like the development of porn addictions, of like I don't have a problem with porn, of like if you are doing this in a way that is empowering for you, and like hopefully what you are engaging in, that it was created in a way that was consensual, especially that like the workers involved are getting paid and compensated for their work and it's not just trafficking. But it's like this is just so real, so real. The rise of breeding rhetoric in recent years has been so unsettling, even under the guise of memes and jokes. I agree. I think it's like, on one hand, we shouldn't be kink shaming, of like, it can be a kink that people like, but also it's like that has to be consensual. And also, it's not an accident that there is the normalization and rise. Like in the mainstream of certain kinks, where it gets taken out of the context of this needs to be consensual, something that needs to be negotiated and agreed upon beforehand, especially when like there is this increasing rise in fascism, normalization of white supremacy, especially, not like it went anywhere, but how this idea of like women and I mean, not idea, but women's rights being stripped, especially after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. The limited job options for women, of like that's something that I've even been hearing more about too, is like women who are straight, even straight and white, that are trying and don't have a disability or not immigrants, that are trying to find new jobs, are having a really hard time finding jobs. And so I'm like, what does that mean for me? But you know, it's like, and I even have privilege in this situation as well, compared to some other people who are experiencing more intersections of marginalization. So it's like this is becoming normalized in many ways. I think the like a breeding kink and choking are also becoming much more normalized. And so it's like, if you like that, if that's something you're wanting to do, I mean, like there are always issues with breath play. Like we have talked about this on previous streams, but there's no amount of breath restriction that doesn't have consequences, especially when it comes to the unstudied long-term health consequences that we still don't know about. So like in general, just stay away from choking. And especially if you are into or wanting to explore breath play, be doing a lot of research on this beforehand, understand the health consequences. That's my take, especially because there is this normalization of choking happening in a non-consensual way in hetero relationships specifically. So it's like all of this goes to this, I like the concept of these political forces that are limiting people's rights, stripping their humanity, and like the rise of a breeding kink also can't be separated from the fact of like wanting to increase white birth rates, that this may be something that is co-opted by fascists and served in media in places specifically to make it so people are seeing this and normalizing it in a way that is non-consensual as well. So like acknowledging all of these things, that there are political forces that are wanting to normalize certain things but have it be in a non-consensual way, which doesn't make it kinky, just to be clear. Also not gone unnoticed that most recent rise in rhetoric against porn and sex work coincides with the rise of OnlyFans. Yep. People owning the rights to their own bodies and content is the problem. The rhetoric was so much more limited under the previous, more exploitative structures. Yep, exactly. It goes back to capitalists and people who are, like what you were saying, owning these means of production, and that people are not as easily exploited. It doesn't mean that there aren't people who can't be exploited in on that platform, but also how, like, anything that is viewed as people having more ownership, quite literally, of their own income, of their bodies, that it is demonized. And how now the existence of OnlyFans, of like the owner being Jewish, that it is being used as a way to foment anti-Semitism, which is like, you do realize that like the majority of like the adult film industry is owned by like white straight dudes. So like, but that is like the one example, and also saying like this is evil and like conflating all of these things at once, which I just started an OnlyFans. For people who are part of the Discord, I will probably be sharing a link to that. If you're into that, cool. If not, no pressure, not to be weird. But also, as we're talking about these things of like people embracing sexuality and also wanting to make money in a way that they have ownership of, can be very empowering. And to support people who are doing this, that can also be an empowering experience where there is this consent given in this format. But yeah, I think that is very apt to what we were talking about, Linton, that yeah, all of this cannot be separated from these oppressive power structures, and how like they're intentionally made murky to be like, oh, you like this because you were taught to like this, rather than like you like this because you actively are choosing this and want to negotiate these circumstances of like being in a cage, of like being like, I want someone who is more dominant to tell me to have certain kinds of screen time because that's good for me. But then if that situation is not working, then I can revoke consent at any time. So like consent makes the difference in all of these situations, which is why we talk about it so frequently here.
Conservative parent has never been harder. I have a friend who told me that at their son's school, they actually teach boys as young as 18 what consent is. Can you believe that?
You know, Jim, I just make sure the toilet water is milky and I go back to my crate.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Sorry, you're getting me all riled up here.
Because she's not allowed to have opinions.
Yeah, so like I said, it's just been so fulfilling, and it's been so successful that we've actually had to open up a new facility. We call it a remote homeschool education center.
Oh, all right. Well, let's take a look. Oh, yeah.
It's a homeschool away from home.
That's great.
So on the days where my boys are not taking the homeschool bus to homeschool, they are with me, learning on the farm.
And I imagine homeschooling them all must be a little difficult.
You know, honestly, the only downside that I've found is their lack of exposure to gun violence.
Oh, yeah, that is a shame. I've always said that a school shooter in the hallway from time to time is good for
Except, no, that's not what's happening here. If they are in a family like this, where they're so conservative, there are absolutely guns in this household, and they are absolutely not in safes. That the kids have not been taught about gun safety, and that they have easy access to these guns. So they actually are exposed to more gun violence, probably.
It keeps them focused. It's great for physical education as well. So we've started to introduce homeschool shooter drills every day, which is great because when you think about it, a public school kid is only getting exposed to an active shooter situation 2 to 3 times a year.
Oh, yeah, that's not enough.
Whereas my boys get to experience it every day after Bible verses.
That is so smart.
I take one of my husband's handguns and put it underneath one of their beanbag chairs, so it's like they're getting a real classroom experience.
Okay.
Is it loaded?
So they're tapping into that. I jumped the gun on that. Also, anecdotally, mutual aid networks would falter without the money resources provided from people in those professions. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Especially when it comes to like these these ideas of like what actually is work. Sex work is labor. Sex work is work. And that the best way that people are protected is when they have the ability to organize in the workplace and also have access to mutual aid. That like um yeah, there are sex workers that are deeply involved in community organizing, and a lot of the time this can be out of necessity, and how we need to protect all kinds of workers, and that criminalizing sex work doesn't make it just go away, that it hurts the sex workers most of all, and that the people who are paying for the services of sex workers are still going to be finding these services elsewhere, but they are not carrying the burden that the sex workers do for all of the criminalization that is involved. Um, some of you know, like I've auditioned for like some gentlemen's clubs as I'm like trying to find a job, make money. Um, and in one of these, like I didn't have the right shoes because I don't know why I didn't do this beforehand. I just like had some like thigh-high boots, but it was like scratching up the stage and that was not a good situation. And I was like panicking. I was like, "Oh no." And there was someone that a fellow worker there that was like, "Hey, I have some shoes in my car like that you can use." And they like happened to be my size. And she was like, "Yeah, you can just keep them." These shoes are expensive, by the way. They're like $60. I mean, that's expensive to me. um, and she like 60 to like $80 sometimes. And she's like, "Yeah, just keep them." She didn't know if because I was auditioning, she didn't know if I would be kept on, which surprise, I wasn't. And so like even just like stuff like that of like elements of like where I would be like, "Oh, I don't know what to do here," or ask for this, or like people being very willing to like offer advice and like let me borrow certain things, and like there is so much solidarity that can be had, and that I think like I really just admire sex workers and the amount of like backbone and boundaries and like badassery that goes into it. That's not to say that like, you know, like human beings are humans in whatever workplace they're at. And like that's not to say that there can't be like issues within the workplace, but like how there are people that are wanting to help each other out, especially in understanding like some of the risks involved with the kind of work, and being like, "Yeah, like you should know this, you should know this." And um I am just like so incredibly grateful to like all of the people that I was able to interact with in these experiences, and have so much admiration, especially like not only just like the talent that is involved of like the like what it means to even like commodify like actually provide value to like the act of seduction of like what makes something appealing. That takes a lot of fucking skill that people do not appreciate. That goes for all kinds of sex work. So, anyway, that's my anecdote. But yeah, there are people who are deeply invested in creating a safe workplace. And that's not to say all workplaces are like this, but there is a lot of solidarity that can be
Of
found.
course, it doesn't feel real otherwise.
Masturbation alert.
Oh,
Masturbation
I'm
alert.
sorry. I get an alert every time someone self-reports for masturbating on the FAP form. Someone has masturbated to a photo of a ham in a ShopRite catalog.
Oh, Jim, the devil's wickedness knows no end. You don't masturbate, do you?
Oh no. Not right now. No.
Not right now. And this is what happens when people are so repressed. Like there are so many stories of Mormon missionaries, of like people masturbating and all of this stuff, of like, that's a normal thing. That's very human. But feeling so much shame around it, of like my partner knowing of like someone on their mission that would like buy blueberries and take them into the bathroom and like masturbate to those. And I'm like, I'm like, if that's what gets you going, that's great, amazing. But also I think a lot of it has to do with like these developments of like very specific like turn-ons, especially when it's not like bodies, of like projecting it onto like other things, which like I'm wanting to acknowledge of like, if that's what you like, cool, great. But also like, it's sad in the way of like people not being able to like do this in a way that is like, first of all, not like monitored by other people around, because you have to constantly have a companion on a Mormon mission so that like this stuff isn't happening. So it's like this kind of like humiliation exercise. But also of like the development of things like this, like, cool, great, but like, how about we let people just be sexual and have it be consensual, and that would be lovely. And if they want to do that with blueberries, then great. So like, not to like kink shame that, it just is like not an uncommon thing of him talking about like food and stuff like that, of like all of these like workarounds to be like, oh, I like this because it reminds me of this or something. I don't know, of like, who knows how we develop our like fetishes and kinks and whatnot. Which that would be a fetish specifically, because like fetishes are associated with like sexual activity and being turned on specifically in a sexual manner. So it's like, if you like that, great, but also like people should be able to have the ability and space to develop what they like sexually and not have it be surveilled and quite literally demonized.
Moment, no.
When was the last time you masturbated?
Wow, I can't believe no one's ever asked me that before, but it was August 26, 2012.
Wretched mongrel.
Oh, Callie, it's not what you think. I was a different person back then. I hadn't found Jesus yet. I was out of control. Neil Armstrong just died, and I was the host of a morning news show. I'm not proud, but it was a lot of pressure. Oh, Callie, you don't
Neil
have to get in the
Armstrong
crate.
just
Oh. All right, well, they're all masturbating to you now, so you might as well just come on out.
No, I'm never coming out of here, Jim, never, until you promise me that you will never masturbate again. Those could have been children, Jim.
Callie, I promise you, those days are behind me now. But I promise you now, right in front of the whole world, that I will never, ever masturbate myself again.
myself.
I don't masturbate anymore.
You gotta tell me how you did it.
With this, the 4-limb assisted ejaculate extractor. I used to be addicted to porn. I would use my own hand to my all the time.
Do you see the workarounds? I love this. This is pretty well made. I want to acknowledge of like, if you are wanting to engage in any of this in a consensual way, great. But the issue is when we grow up in societies where we are taught that certain things are what is normal, or what that's not the right word. When we are taught that this is what is preferred or what should be the norm, and people don't have consent in a situation, that is the issue.
And I got the 4-limb assisted ejaculate extractor designed to my precise hand and wrist measurements. It's my hand, but it's not my hand.
So it doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Oh, let's fucking go, dude.
And the Bible doesn't even know about this technology, so it's not a sin.
No. That is not a sin, dude.
It's about accountability, bro.
It's about accountability.
Stop masturbating with your own hand. Get your 4-limb assisted ejaculate extractor today.
Emergency with Tim Heidecker. Demonologist proves ex-wife. Uh-oh. It's been an experience for the actors, I know. Like, we need something after this. Certainly not what was happening. All right. So I didn't realize we would be getting into all of these conversations about consent with that video by The Onion, but there you go. Always something that is important to be talking about. Okay, so this is a video by FD Signifier that I have been wanting to watch for a while. It's on his B-Sides channel. Of course, the World Cup is political. I'm not a sporting person, as many of you know, but I am interested in his take on this because of all of the politics that were involved with the World Cup, especially with all of the racism that existed. So I thought I would get a more informed perspective. I need to get to the new FD tomorrow. The one on Candace Owens. He also has something on Nebula that came out called Goon World that I think, like, as we're talking about consent, making sure that, like, people in society feel like they have freedom and actual consent, that these things are not imposed on people. The rise of gooning, of it often being like a replacement for social connection and like antidepressants, from what I've learned about it. But I mean, that may be reductive to say, but I'm sure whatever he has researched on this, because this is like part of his higher education as well, is talking about like the media and culture and sexuality in it, that I am wanting to watch that. Yeah, what video specifically are you wanting to watch of FD's?
This is a sports channel. This is not a political channel. I just want to be clear about that up front. Although yesterday was the 250th anniversary of America's freedom, and today the American soccer team plays Belgium. Belgium being one of the more interesting countries to play, and try not to talk about politics as it pertains to soccer or sports in general. Hopefully by the time you watch this, they'll be out of the tournament because America would have handed it to them. But if they don't, it'll probably be because their best striker who saved their asses last game, Romelu Lukaku, who happens to be from the Democratic
Candace
Republic
one.
of Congo.
Rather not the Candace one, I know. He's like, this
For the
is
sake
not
of the
about
sensitive
Candace
types
Owens.
in the crowd, I'll just say that the DRC and Belgium have a very interesting.
Can we just appreciate for a second how great he is at titling videos, regularly updates the titles of videos and the thumbnails. The thumbnails are also incredible as well. So like, just very strategic and smart about going about these things. I mean, this is like how his analysis is to begin with, so should we expect anything different? But really just giving him props.
Significant history, the DRC arguably being the richest nation on the planet. Not its money, not its economy, its actual resources, minerals, cobalt, gold, oil. The DRC has it all in abundance. We're talking in the multiples of trillions of dollars worth of resources that can be found in the Central African nation. The DRC has so much value just in this land that I've made in my own head canon that that's actually Wakanda. In fact, if you go and watch Black Panther, and I've mentioned this before, if you look at the beginning of the film where the vibranium meteor hits, it low-key hits in the DRC. And while yes, this is silly.
I didn't know that. I need to rewatch Black Panther. I haven't seen that for a while. This FD vid was kind of cathartic after spending so long having to explain why I was rooting for the teams I was and why I was rooting against Belgium so hard. Yes, I'm glad. Wait, have you seen this video then? That's what it sounds like, I'm guessing. He really just has such incredible takes, especially with all of the like Graham Plattner nonsense of him being on the receiving end of like how you were saying in that situation, Linton, of all of these like white supposed leftist edgelords who are like, you shouldn't be providing criticism at all. And it's like, this is part of the problem, okay? Of like these white people not ever wanting to listen to people of color on the left, especially when there has been a history of this happening. And when there are people who are saying, like, here are these signs that we should be looking out for, of like, this is how we are getting to this fascist moment to begin with. Not to say it's just because of like white leftist edgelord dudes, but like the not listening to diversity of thought.
Does undergird a real truth about the struggle of the DRC and most of Africa, which is that colonialism has taken so much from its land and its people. The DRC would probably not be Wakanda, but if left to its own devices, it would legitimately be one of the richest nations in the world. This was something that was understood 75 years ago when Patrice Lumumba rose up to lead a relatively bloodless revolution in the DRC in the 1960s. I've talked about Lumumba more than a few times because even though his time as a revolutionary was relatively short, it was incredibly influential. The image and idea of a free Congo helped create Black radicalism here in America. The Black Power movement and Pan-Africanism and even Malcolm X were influenced by this man. Malcolm called him the greatest Black man to walk the African continent. His Independence Day speech in 1960 is one of the most famous speeches in history, as he was probably the first at the time sovereign Black leaders to openly criticize and condemn racism and colonialism to the face of white Europeans as a sovereign leader of his own land. Considering the impact of this moment and this movement, it's no surprise that Lumumba was assassinated only 6 months later, killed by a coalition of his political enemies in the Congo along with the Belgian government with help from the CIA. This sadly was not the end of turmoil for the DRC, as war and upheaval and social strife has been ever present, greatly due to foreign influence and imperial forces seeking to get a foothold on the nation and its, again, trillions of dollars worth of natural resources that powers Teslas and probably the device you're watching this on right now. And this is an ongoing massive humanitarian crisis, while Palestine, and to a lesser extent what's happening in Sudan, get most of the headlines in terms of international coverage. What's happening in the Congo sadly struggles to keep the attention of the world. And that's why when I saw this man standing up in the audience at a FIFA World Cup game, I innately knew that this had to be related to the Congo's complex history.
Okay. Incredible. Can I just say, we are so blessed and honored to be able to hear from FD and have his takes. Lumumba via, yep, we have the Congo flag. The suppression of the Lumumba via guy protesting in the crowd, the thing that eventually did break through to normies was the fact that Belgium only gave Lumumba's tooth back in 2022. People love to divorce countries from the past, the fucking past that never fucking ended. Yep. I think that's a great way of putting it too, of saying, like, as it, you know, like many people have been saying for years and years and years, of like, this is a continuation of what has been happening with colonization, the extraction of resources, oppression of people, and that it's not an accident that all of these world events are happening in the way that they are. It's just a continuation of what has been happening in the past. The past, as you are saying. They dissolved him in acid. IIRC kept the tooth as a trophy. I know. It's so evil. It's so fucking evil. And it is a way of clearly dehumanizing someone who really, like, to dehumanize someone who is actively advocating for the humanity of people as a tactic to then not only dehumanize him, but the people that he was trying to humanize. Much the same as they've done throughout history, there are still heinous heirlooms, of Nat Turner being passed down, no doubt. Yep. Exactly. Like, all of, like, the imagination for cruelty of fascists, colonizers, oppressors, capitalists really just seems to be unlimited a lot of the time, even though it's like, I mean, as I've said before, this is maybe a contradiction of what I've said before of like not even having creativity to begin with. It's just recycling things from the past. But like, even as we've been talking about King James and like all of these methods to torture people who were accused of being witches, of like, so you have creativity for oppression, you have creativity for cruelty, for evil, which in my mind, evil is dehumanizing people and oppressing people, making it so that people don't have consent. That word once again. That but like somehow there isn't any sort of creativity when it comes to helping people have better lives. But again, that's not what it's about. Like most people actually being to survive and have human dignity in their lives, it is about upholding these hierarchies of human dignity. So they resort to these tactics to create fear and to diminish people who truly are giants among us with what they were able to stand for in their lives.
The haircut was too specific and the aura was too great for this to just be a random super fan as he was being described in most mainstream media. And lo and behold, within 5 minutes of Googling, it was made clear that this was in fact a political statement being made by one Michel Kuka Mboladinga, aka Lumumba Veya, and I apologize if I messed that name up, but he's dope, and he's not just showing out for the love of soccer. He's there to deliver a message to his nation and to the world to not forget about the Congo, what it is, what it was, and what it's going through. Is a direct.
This is why, like, most of the time I don't care about sports. That's not a surprise. I'll say it again. But, like, this is when I am paying attention more to sports of, like, you can't separate the politics involved of FIFA being compromised for years and years and years, of them giving a so-called peace award to Donald Trump, that they have permitted all of this discrimination to exist, despite them having panels that say like no racism, of like maybe if you were implementing your policies in a way that like banned certain countries from playing, that would be more effective in fighting against racism. I don't know.
Reference to the statue of Lumumba that greets you when you enter the nation, and it is inherently political, which is surprising for me considering that I made a joke about the politics of soccer and a bunch of European crybabies jumped into my comments because I posted something about the current state of FIFA and it's not so subtle commentary on the history of global colonialism by Western Europe. I got a whole lot of, bro, it's just soccer. And I guess low-key shut up and dribble, but like not the typical shut up and dribble. Like with a basketball, it's dribbling a soccer ball. And, you know, Europeans often like to think that they're not just like Americans when it comes to racism. But in some ways they're worse because at least Americans know they're racist. Y'all act like this is like some shit that's just being made up over here. And I'll leave it at that for now. So it's not like
I love him. Also, I take issue with the fact that YouTube auto captions always censors swear words. That's like, excuse me. Then what about, like, this is why we can't leave things to AI, and also like you need human beings to like observe these things, but it's just like these sort of like respectability types of politics. And also of like, so what if someone isn't swearing, but they're talking in a very incredibly racist manner? Or even like you have someone who is black who is saying the N-word and the N-word being censored, of like, that's a reclaiming, that's free speech, of like, you need like human oversight and not racist, discriminatory human oversight. He wasn't allowed into the US either. He was part of the envoy group around the national team. He was only able to go to the games in Mexico. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Thank you for that background.
news to me that Europeans and whites across the world are just as oblivious to racism as Americans, but it is an interesting change of scenery for me as a person very new to soccer fandom. As some of you may know, I'm a proud soccer dad. My oldest has been playing soccer since he was 9, and at first I was just happy that he was interested in the sport as something to do outside when the lockdowns ended, but me having to learn the game forced me to appreciate it a lot more than I initially ever thought I would, and I'm finally starting to get what the rest of the world sees in the sport. I even have some rule changes I'd like to suggest, but I was told that may be in bad taste, and so we'll stick to just the politics.
Good opening.
Okay, new rule. Half-court violations in soccer. Also, still not calling it football. Let's not get ridiculous. Just being real with y'all. But I probably watch.
Okay, not to keep interrupting him, but like he's saying such incredibly good things. Like, yeah. By the way, he also streams on Twitch, so go follow, subscribe to FD Streams. That's his account on Twitch. Yeah, and he also does impromptu streams. At least that's like from what I have seen. So it is not always super consistent, but he streams like as he is feeling the need to. And I kind of like that unpredictability. Oh my fucking god, the European exceptionalism has been fucking killing me. So many people looking down their nose at the US as if we're not the blueprint. That's very real. That's very real. And asserting that if we just distance ourselves from the US, we'd be okay. It's a constant fucking battle. Everyone is always a US problem. No, it is true. It just is, like, I mean, what FD is saying, it's like there are just some people in the US that are willing to be more outspoken about it and to more, like, right-wing, like, liberal sentiment in Europe, it is viewed as vulgar, which, you know, it is, but, like, it's also vulgar to still be racist and not be honest that you aren't racist, you know, like, it was so interesting because a while ago I went to visit family in Denmark with my immediate family. This kind of like, I mean, there have been ups and downs, my family, whatever. Like, as many of you know, this was also part of the same trip where we went to Amsterdam with all of these things that happen. Anyway, I have some Danish family where they are very socialist in nature as a default because the society is socialist just in general, but also having enough distance from the US and also like with more recent years accepting more refugees in from places that they're like, oh, now we actually have to confront our racism now that we are letting in more people of color specifically who are immigrants. And they were like one like family member in particular that was talking about like so-called cultural corrosion that I'm like, this is great replacement theory. And of course they didn't like me like saying this kind of stuff. And I wonder, I'm like, why don't I have like relationships with certain people? Like, well, maybe because you're saying that they're talking about the great replacement theory. That doesn't necessarily like endear you to people per se, but also like it's so interesting hearing like this person specifically talk about like, oh, this is what we need to do to help people recover from like hard substances with substance use disorders, of being very progressive in certain ways and then being like, oh, but we care about cultural corrosion. That's just like, that's so fucking racist. And that's just going back to like what you were saying, Linton, the blueprint of being a colonizer, of like, just because you exist in a society that has more socialist policies does not mean that like you cannot be incredibly fascist in many ways, especially when you are living in a place that is predominantly white, blonde-eyed, and blonde-eyed. Oh no, this is my adult drink kicking in. Blue-eyed and blonde, to be like, oh, there's cultural corrosion. And it's like, you know what? Danish food is good, but also this could use some more seasoning. Maybe that corrosion would make some of the food taste even better. Euroid politicians and pundits used to have the wherewithal to dress up their BS in an academic wrapping. Yep. Islamo-gauchism rhetoric in France, for example. Yep, exactly. I think that's a really great way of putting it, too. It's like now we've gotten to a point where the Overton window in general has shifted so much, and like, there is a contribution to this largely because of US imperialism, of these right-wing politicians rising to power or being able to say more things that they wouldn't normally be saying. But it's like, you don't even have the decency to like wrap it in something that would be a little more tolerable. It just is racism. It just is bigotry and discrimination. And I wouldn't be surprised, like, as time goes on, especially with what's happening in the US, that they are becoming increasingly brazen, even more than they have been, too. Like how you're saying, there's a departure more from like the academic type of rapping, that it's going to be mirroring more of what's happening in the US, unfortunately.
Soccer more than any other sport outside
The
of
Euroid.
football for the past few years. And this is my first time having the opportunity to pay attention to the World Cup. And it didn't take long to notice some interesting race politics and, social cultural commentary that I know I can't be the first one to notice, but considering that I, like most Americans, aren't that locked in, going to be new to a lot of the people watching this. But for those of you who are long-term soccer fans that want to really get into the shit, go ahead and put some things in the comments that I may have missed. I'm sure because I'm new to the sport, I'll be missing a lot. To get started, before I even saw Lumumba Vea, I could not notice that regardless of what country was playing, the continent of Africa and its rich resources were on display. And I don't mean that because of Congo or Ghana or the Ivory Coast or the many North African teams. I also mean pretty much any team that isn't East Asian, Central Asian, or Eastern European. When I mean natural resources, I mean...
Yep. Especially, and this also has to do with colorism as well, of like Southeast Asian people as well, of like him not including Southeast Asian people, of like the colorism that exists within, like, and that has to do with global anti-blackness that exists, of Southeast Asian people often being viewed by other parts of Asia as being lesser than, because of having darker skin, of this demonizing of certain characteristics within culture, of like eating with your hands as opposed to eating with utensils. That's like, that can't be separated from the anti-blackness that exists globally. The recent Israeli-US psyop this week is working too well with what they facilitated in Morocco. Wait, I don't know if I'm familiar with this. If you don't mind, could you relate what was happening? My ignorant ass.
Literally the people in this case. America is fielding the blackest team they've probably ever had, and surprise, surprise, we're doing the best we've ever done in forever. Surprise, surprise! Again, recording this before we play Belgium today, but even making it to this far is already like new heights for America. I've been saying for a while that there's probably a cultural shift coming to American soccer as more and more young black boys, a lot of these like little boys that grow up to be 5'11" shooting guards, are gonna probably find their way into soccer earlier than they would have. And when you look at people like I Show Speed making soccer way more popular amongst young American black men, we'll probably be seeing a cultural shift if it can take a hold in black communities, which is hard because soccer in America runs with like a weird cartel system. In other countries, soccer is popular because everybody can play it, including the poorest of the poor. Whereas in America, you basically have to have a nice amount of money to get the high level training. But again, if it gets cultural, we'll get there in a second. By the time I have grandkids, I think America maybe will have gotten to a World Cup finals if we don't make it this time around. One example.
Okay, I'm looking it up as well. Okay, so this is about the Abraham Accords, I'm guessing. Trump says Morocco. See, I should know this stuff. Trump says Morocco named Tiznit Dakhla highway after him, why it matters. The claimed tribute to Trump forms part of Morocco's larger ambitions in the disputed Western Sahara. Oh. Okay. This does sound familiar, especially when it comes to, like, the Abraham Accords. I haven't been plugged into as much, like, current events, I guess, of late, but this is good for me to know about. Morocco is one of the signatories, so this is by Al Jazeera, to the Trump-brokered Abraham Accords, which saw the country normalize relations with U.S. ally Israel in 2020. In return, the Trump administration provided crucial support at the United Nations through bilateral channels, bringing Rabat closer to securing greater control over the disputed territory of Western Sahara, which also, as we were talking about the Western Sahara, there is part of the Odyssey, that movie that has come out, that was filmed in the Western Sahara. And that has been a huge issue, which is just justifying the normalization of these relations in general and the oppression of the people in Western Sahara. So absolutely, it makes perfect sense that Morocco would do something like this for Trump, who single-handedly moved that case forward, the only American administration to give Morocco what it always wanted, which is much clearer support on Western Sahara, analyst Intisar Fakir of the Middle East Institute told Al Jazeera. Basically, there was a huge wave of migrants that went over the Moroccan border into a Spanish enclave. There was little resistance from the Moroccan side, and coincides with what they're trying to paint of Pedro Sanchez. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. And justify and normalize these ideas of who is an acceptable immigrant and who is not. Long disputed territory. Crucially, the Trump highway runs through, ew, that's so gross to even read, through Western Sahara, a UN-designated non-self-governing territory that Morocco calls its southern provinces, and where it has invested heavily in roads, ports, and other infrastructure over the past 2 decades. Analysts say those projects are part of a broader effort to strengthen Morocco's hold over the disputed territory. Morocco claims the phosphate and fisheries-rich former Spanish colony, yep, so of course this goes back to colonization, like what you were saying, Linton, who is acceptable in the place and who is not, which coincides with proximity to whiteness and colonial power structures. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise! While the Algeria-backed Polisario Front, which seeks independence for Western Sahara, declared the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic after Spain withdrew in 1975. Estimates about 173,600 Sahrawi refugees live in the camps through Morocco, though Morocco disputes those figures and has long called on the UN to conduct a census there. So there's speculation the heavily U.S.-Israeli allied government in Morocco facilitated this rush as a spectacle. That is now driving right-wing narratives of hordes of people Sanchez is allowing in and such. Interesting. Yeah. Because, like, this goes back to colonial structures of saying, like, oh no, we have to fearmonger about certain groups of people who are viewed as acceptable and who are not, so that we can then justify our political agendas by asserting dominance of white supremacy when white supremacy or just supremacy of whatever the type of ethno-state or the supremacy of certain groups of people in a particular place, to justify these hierarchies in the oppression of other groups of people, which most often are indigenous groups of people. U.S. Africa envoy Masad Boulos reportedly led Washington-facilitated talks in Madrid and subsequent discussions in the U.S. He later told journalists that the conflict was on the path to resolution. Also, from what I understand of the situation, and I could be wrong, and correct me if I am wrong, of this being related as well to Spain's advocacy for Palestine and Palestinian liberation. Analysts say Algeria's willingness to engage in the talks could suggest a readiness to ease its opposition, particularly as its ties with Washington have stabilized. Algiers does not necessarily see the Rabat-Washington relationship as threatening to Algerian interests. Zine Labadine Gebouli of the Arab Reform Initiative told Al Jazeera. I almost said AI Jazeera. The U.S. has managed to maintain ties with both Morocco and Algeria, he said, something other leading powers have struggled to do. The U.S. Department of Commerce said this week it would fund the early stages of an ammonium project in Western Sahara, marking a significant first. I mean, that doesn't sound good. Just resource extraction. The move adds a new economic dimension to a conflict that has long been shaped by diplomacy, security, and competing claims over territory. Yeah, what is this picture? The U.S. officially recognized Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara in December 2020. Thank you for letting me know about this, Linton. Sanchez has been getting some of Trump's ire since they rejected the NATO increase to defense spending, their immigration policy, their lukewarm advocacy for Palestine. Yeah. Yeah, and that's I like how you put that as well, of lukewarm, of it being politically beneficial to him. Yeah, there have been some things that I've watched in the news that kind of briefly goes over this, but especially with me not knowing the historical context, not wanting to speak too much on it, but this is very helpful. Thank you.
This is one of the top players on the American team, is the son of an NFL legend and former Super Bowl champion. And if you look across almost every other team in the World Cup right now,
an indicator
you
that
see
I just
plenty
need to
of
learn
black
more.
folks. Even
So
Mexico has a black dude playing striker that's one of their best players. Japan has a dude that looks like the black Giga Chad playing goalie. And then pretty much every other team, if they don't have at least one or two or probably even three black players on their team, it may low-key be almost the entire team. So unless the World Cup is won by one of those few teams with the minimal black players like Norway or Argentina, I wonder why there's no black players in the Argentina team. It's safe to say that no matter who wins the World Cup, Africa wins the World Cup. That's just the facts. The whole continent. We're giving the whole continent of Africa a World Cup trophy at the end of this because clearly they're gonna deserve it. Now, if you're asking why that is, it's not just because soccer is so popular in Africa and across diaspora, but the diaspora itself exists because of colonialism. Because in 1884, a bunch of Europeans had a meeting in Berlin to decide the future of Africa, a meeting that didn't include any Africans. And since then, the continent has been raped and pillaged for its natural resources, and even after much of the continent won its independence in the last 75 years, neocolonialism is still in full effect. And it's not just because of Europe, it's also Russia and China and of course America attacking and raping and taking from the continent of Africa and not giving much of anything in return. In fact, despite Belgium's horrible history in the DRC, China right now controls 80% of the mineral extraction happening in the nation right now. Extraction that is not being used to fix the huge humanitarian crises happening in the DRC. As a
It's still fuck Sanchez, still a puppet. He just learned some new lines. Yeah, as evidenced by the recent extradition situation with the PSC financier. Yeah.
Of the devastation of these African nations, there are full-on political, economic, and medical crises, which has many people in these nations constantly trying to find their way out, and sports is one of the most lucrative ways to do it. But also consider the fact that this extraction isn't new, so some of these African players were born in France, Belgium, Germany, etc., to parents that are of African descent that may have immigrated 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I say that because I do want to be clear as I speak to this, because this is one thing I didn't make clear in a previous statement on this. I am not saying that these African players are not citizens, genuine citizens of the nations that they're playing for, first and foremost. They are. But just because they were born in France, born in Belgium, born in Paraguay, whatever, doesn't make the way in which they came to inhabit and embody those nationalities any less complex and, yes, political. Their Africanness tells a big part of their story, and that's a significant thing to point out. When I see the French team and it looks like an HBCU picnic, I think there's something to be said there. And I get it, I am an American idiot sometimes. I don't understand the nuances around racial politics.
Yeah, how many places in many countries in Africa speak French. That is because of colonization.
The States, and I will continue to try to improve on that. And again, I'm not trying to say that these French players are not French or take away their French nationality or anything that I wouldn't want someone to do to me as an African American. I also understand that these various countries, there are political movements and opinions that are nationalistic, that seek to expel and marginalize Africans of the diaspora and say that they're not truly of the nations they live in or are born in. I don't want to contribute to all of that. America's best player right now, Folarin Balogun, who just got cleared off that bullshit red card from last week, he is a Nigerian Brit that just happened to be born in New York. That's the only reason why he's playing for us. And shout out to us for that. And that's fine. Like all of this, the actual like details of who comes from where and who they play for, that doesn't really matter to me in terms of like the sport of it all. But it does matter to me that we understand that that's not happening by some natural capriciousness of people just moving across the globe. There's a reason why so many of these West African nations are being mined, not just for their natural resources, but for their human resources. And the fact that that's still happening to this day is also why Patrice Lumumba was assassinated so many years ago. It's the exact same concept. It's extraction of resources from Africa to be utilized by European and other nations to enrich them, disallowing African nations to benefit from their own resources, and in this case, they're soccer players. The Congo was one of several African teams that made it to the round of 32, but sadly, almost all of them did not make it into the round of 16. Most of them going out sad with comeback, like choke losses at the end of the game. But I imagine if you took these African players from all these other teams and had them go to their home countries, we'd probably be seeing an all-African top 16 at this point. I know I'm not the first to make this statement. This is something that was pointed out years ago when France won the World Cup in 2018. And Trevor Noah, the then host of The Daily Show, made a similar comment, and a French ambassador had the nerve to get mad at him, wrote a long dumbass letter that completely glosses over the fact that the reason why so many people in Africa and across the world speak French is due to France's history of colonialism and extraction, a history that has mostly come to close in recent years, which is one of the reasons why France's economy is in so much constant turmoil these days, and why their own citizens are outside rioting in the streets like every 18 months. And even still, you probably could tell me I'm making too big a deal out of this and nobody cares if it wasn't for the fact that these African players from these European nations still very much get treated as second-class citizens, even as they're some of the best soccer players their nations have ever seen. And this is very clear with Romelu Lukaku, who plays for Belgium, again from the DRC. From what I can understand, Lukaku is one of the top strikers of the last generation, but despite this, he has spoken himself to that classic double consciousness of being black in a non-black space, or in this case, being an African within Europe. Europe doesn't have the same history of slavery to shape its racism the way it is in America, but please believe that colonialism is built on anti-blackness and its effects are ever present, just like anti-blackness is here. And we know this because as we speak in nations like Northern Ireland and even in South Africa of all places, there are pogroms happening to black immigrants where people are being pulled from their homes and their homes are being burned down by white, and in South Africa's case, black terrorists, because of this history of anti-blackness that permeates well outside of America's borders. From what I understand about FIFA and soccer players worldwide is that racism is so prevalent that they just tolerate it. They just say, fuck it, we're just gonna deal with it. It is what it is. And this is, again, my limited knowledge of what Africans are dealing with, but it doesn't take much Google to see that this is factual. And everything I'm saying about these African teams and these European teams are also true regarding the Caribbean teams and the South American team. Because America is technically at war with Iran, the Iranian team was even disallowed free travel in the United States. So there's like literally so many very political things happening in soccer right now. And that's before, again, talking about why Argentina is the only nation in South America with not a single black person. Messi's the GOAT. I'm sure he's a great guy. I heard he's a good guy. I just don't want to know anything about his opinions on black people. I'm just saying, statistics show that's something
he
I don't
doesn't
want to
seem
know
like
about.
that great of a guy.
I say
from
all
what
this
I've
to say
heard.
that as with any realm of life, not being political, leaving politics out of something is a choice, not a natural
also
state
went
of being.
to
Politics
the White
are
House
inherent to the shape of our
to visit
world,
Trump.
especially within the realm of sports. And if you don't want politics in your sports, feel free to bury your head in the sand, but don't act like the other people who are not dumbasses are the weird ones for having eyes and a working brain as they watch soccer. It is very much possible to enjoy something and at least acknowledge its political or social implications. And when you get mad at people for doing that, it's not because they're wrong, it's because you're wrong and you just don't want anybody bringing it to your attention. Speaking of bringing things to
Hello, androgynous water and raiders. Welcome. Glad to have you. Hello, Dina. Welcome. Hello, water. How was your stream? FD, yep. We love FD. Also, I stopped on a frame that wasn't that flattering for him. Sorry, FD. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? How was the stream? We do Culture Corner over here on Fridays. Heltran. Did I say that right? Yeah, those are two L's. I was like, is that an I? Stream was cute. Being a kitty cat for a few hours. Love. Heltran. Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Welcome. Glad to have you. And also love being a kitty cat for a few hours. That's very much the speed of this place here. Glad to have you all. Yay! Goon World looks so good. I know, Dina. I haven't watched it yet on his Nebula account. I need to, though. I've been wanting to. Especially with it, like, falling under, like, his specific area of, like, study, too. So on Fridays over here, I mean, I guess I should say welcome. This is whatever this is, which is just as vague and all over the place as what it sounds. We talk about a lot of things here. Love supporting fellow they, them, anti-fascists. Oh, thank you. And to you as well. You're incredible. I love what you do. It really is cool seeing all of the solidarity among Twitch streamers supporting each other. I love to see that. And you provide such an amazing space. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for all of these raiders for supporting water as well. They do some amazing stuff. With all of the nonsense that we get up to over here, there's a lot of political commentary, talking about decolonizing history. At the end of every stream, I read a book aloud. And right now we are reading Macbeth. So we've been talking a lot about like the history of witch hunts. So today I also wanted to get to the history of the goddess Hecate, which is the goddess of witchcraft. So that is incredibly related to what is happening in Macbeth, and as well as what's happening in politics at large because of all of this modern day McCarthyism and bullshit by fascists. So On Fridays, we do Culture Corner, where I highlight people talking about culture in a way that I think is very important. FD does this in such an amazing way. Also elevating the art of people who I feel like don't get enough credit or notoriety. And also just like highlighting some things I like. Because why not? Anyway, welcome. Glad to have you here. Feel free to introduce yourself and chat, insert your opinions, ask questions. But if you would prefer to lurk, then feel free to. Also, water, if you're needing to raid and dash, feel free to as well. Thank you all for being here. Glad to have you.
Many of you probably already know, but a lot of you definitely don't. I released my first Nebula original piece, Goon World, last month, and the second
Speaking of
episode
Goon
is due
World,
out in a couple of weeks. Here's more information about that from today's sponsor. I'm extremely proud to announce my first large-scale Nebula exclusive project coming this summer. Coming being a keyword because the name of the title is Goon World. Just stay with me for a second. Yes, the world of pornography today is something completely different. Today, we're living in a goon world.
we're living in a goon world.
You may remember some years ago, I made a video about Brian Pumper, the unique black male adult film star who was a big weirdo in the era of social media where we didn't realize that big weirdos were kind of
just like
the
haven't
people
officially done it.
like to watch the most on social media. It was a really interesting, funny, and also dark video that I was super proud of.
But even just to see Goon World by FD, I think is worth it.
It's literally the 10th most viewed video on this channel, and I didn't make shit off of that video. I didn't make a goddamn thing. Why? Because YouTube will not let you monetize videos about sex. You can't even barely take sponsorships from toy companies most of the time, if you get my drift, because YouTube has really rigid rules around certain things that they deem advertiser unfriendly. And that's frustrating because, believe it or not, my area of study is in gender and sexuality, and I've done a bunch of research on the sociological nature of porn and sex work that's kind of just been unavailable for me to talk about much on YouTube. My black man sexuality video is also demonetized. I had to fight to get my male desirability video monetized, and there's been more than a few times where I've had to change things in videos that are even remotely sexual in my content to make sure that a nigga can get paid. So I decided way back from that B Pumper.
You know how I said earlier, if like swear words also like black people saying the N-word of like as a reclaiming that this is censored by YouTube auto captions. This is AI technology, by the way, that any sort of like monitoring needs to be done by human beings, but also like anti-racist, anti-colonial human beings, anti-ableist human beings. I saw something recently that there were young people, and this is a generalization. There were just a couple of young people that were like, we're reclaiming the R word. And then they were saying the R word. And I'm like, but are you disabled though? Because I don't think that's considered reclaiming. Then only people who are disabled, especially with like cognitive disabilities, can you be saying this and reclaiming it. Just because you're calling it reclaiming does not mean that you weren't using it as a slur, you know? Anyway. Hello, Aliana Bunso, welcome. Also, as we were talking about sex work, I recently did start an OnlyFans. We'll see what comes of that. I'm only sharing the link in the Discord if you're interested in joining the Discord. Not like you have to, no pressure there. So, you can feel free to support if you're interested. If not, no pressure. Thank you for sharing that link. Yeah, I'll be doing it after this stream. As a reclaiming, empowering sex workers, you know, we're all about that here. even if they have a quote-unquote disability, they're probably privileged enough for it to be invisible or fly under the radar, thus not having the word levied against them to reclaim it. Yeah, there's also that as well. Yeah, of people who are perceived as being visibly disabled, and like that can mean so many different things, and it being used as a way to dehumanize people. Yeah, that's a great call out, Linton.
That whenever I
Oh, going back to the Discord, there is a form if you are wanting to join the Discord, because this is a way to weed out the ne'er-do-wells. So just be sure to include your username in the form as well, and like how you heard about this, just so I can connect the dots of who is applying. But again, no pressure to be involved with any of this if you are interested. Having an invisible disability, being a privilege. It's all about fun and games, not looking disabled until no one accommodates it. I mean, I think we can hold that nuance of like people who are not being perceived as disabled, still like being discriminated against, or not having that same empathy understood, or the accommodations, like what you were saying, being offered, that like there are their own like drawbacks and marginalization that exists there, but as well as like the people who are often harmed the most with slurs like this that are used in a way to justify like colonizing eugenics as well, that there tends to be even more layers of discrimination of when people are perceived as having a disability too. Not across the board, but in the context. Yeah, I think both of you are correct in what you are saying. We can hold these things at the same time.
Video about this industry, it would only be on Nebula, because I didn't want to spend days and weeks fighting YouTube over whether or not I can stop saying corn instead of a word that starts with a P that rhymes with corn. You see how stupid this is, right? So Goon World is going to be exclusive to Nebula. Goon World is going to be an examination of the history of sex work and pornography, looking at its historic origins, its current manifestations, and its future reality. I interviewed real adult film stars, OnlyFans models, sexologists, feminist scholars, and alleged real-life gooners to make this, and it quickly went from being just one of my longer videos to a series, all to be released over the summer with minimal barriers on actually asking and discussing the hard questions, because it's only going to be available on my streaming service, Nebula. If you're interested in all that, please sign up for Nebula using the QR code on the screen or the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. I'm FD Signifier, and this has been Lightwork.
Especially to, well, I guess we have 1 second left. Bit. Also, as an additional plug for Nebula, which I do not have an account, I will probably be subscribing at some point, is that from what I understand, it is worker owned, that people actually have the opportunity to have a share in the company and its proceeds. So that is very rare and distinct from many media platforms. All right. So today we did get a submission from Linton in talking about some art forms that I think are incredibly important to be talking about, like zajal. So I'm not familiar with this art form, this poetry, this form of Arabic poetry that I think is incredibly beautiful. So we will be learning about this all together. To clarify, I didn't mean to say it's inherently a privilege. No, I think, yeah, I think it's good that you both are calling out these things of like there are what there are many disabilities that go unseen, and that there are people who are not offered accommodations, and that, I mean, the whole process of saying like you have to prove your disability to begin with is extremely dehumanizing. And so it just reveals the larger ableist society that we are existing in, societies that we are existing in to begin with. But that, yes, there are layers to the marginalization as well, and like who is even perceived as having a disability, of like these distinctions being made, like what we consider to be a disability or not. That a lot of this has to go back to colonial power structures that are imposed on people non-consensually and violently throughout history. All right, so moving officially to Culture Corner. I mean, we have been talking about culture, but this video is by Simon Aklar, and this is What is Zajal? Virtual Zajal Battle with My Friend. I'm very excited to learn about this history. Currently going through jumping the hoops for diagnosis after watching the student loans crash and burn. That's fun. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, good luck to you. This is the video that we were talking about earlier. This video is kind of about Candace Owens, but not really. Yeah, I still need to watch this. I'm very intrigued about what this is about. Yeah, it really is brutal. And like, I have a friend at the place that I used to work out before being pushed out for like speaking out against, I mean, for being queer and non-binary, but also for like speaking out against data suppression, especially under this fascist regime. That a friend who was recently diagnosed with MS is going through all of these hurdles and is still not getting the accommodations that she is needing very greatly. And this just goes to show, like, once again, the dehumanizing process of it all, of like, so you have to prove of like, yes, I have this experience. Yes, I experienced this kind of pain, or this kind of detriment when it comes to existing in a world that is built for people who are considered quote unquote able-bodied. That it's just a lot to be dealing with. And even when you have enormous amounts of so-called proof, that it does not mean that you will be granted these accommodations either. When I was a worker not on disability pay, I was discriminated a lot because of being weird. I was exhibiting symptoms of my invisible disability, and they just decided to target me and harass me my entire time I stayed there, even forcing me to divulge personal medical information. Damn. Yeah, another, like, I'm really sorry that you experienced that, Aliana, but yeah, that it's not an isolated thing of many people experiencing this, and how yeah, invisible disability, what is considered invisible disability, is so prevalent in society, and how really what it means is getting to the heart of who is considered able-bodied or not. Of like, if we weren't making all of these distinctions that are based off of who is considered quote unquote fit because of these like white supremacist Darwinist ways of thinking, especially, that we wouldn't have to be dealing with this to begin with. The proof for personal independence payment here is so abhorrent. If you are able to slightly cook and go to the bathroom alone, you are largely excluded from receiving help. Yeah, there really are so many layers to all of that. Solidarity, visibility for disabled siblings. All right, shall we learn about the history of Zajal?
in Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, or other countries in the Middle East, and you say off, there's a big chance that someone will reply to you with off. And this is the beauty of music and culture. Because in the midst of political fights, music unites people. Hey everyone, Simon here, and today we're gonna talk about a really nice form of Arabic poetry called zajal. Zajal is Arabic poetry performed or sang in the colloquial dialect. It doesn't use the standard Arabic language, which is al-Fusha, so it's not like the standard Arabic poetry. No one can pinpoint for sure the origins of zajal, but the earliest record we have date back to the 10th century Andalusia or Al-Andalus. So it's said that zajal, alongside with other Arabic poetry and arts, traveled from Al-Andalus to North Africa and then reached the Eastern Mediterranean. Zajal evolved especially in the Eastern Mediterranean. In Lebanon, for example, zajal is considered one of the main traditions there. My friend Shadi and I, when I was in Lebanon, we used to always do these zajal battles. And zajal battle are the most popular form of zajal in Lebanon, where like two people usually battle each other singing zajal. So it's really similar to a rap battle. Me and Shadi used to always battle each other and write our own zajal. But when I moved to Canada, it was really hard to do it face to face, but we still did it virtually, and I really want to share this with you guys. It's in Arabic. I will put the translation, and I really hope you enjoy.
لك يا أشقر شو رأيك بهالبردات نعمل تحدي زاجل نحن وبالبيت نعمل تحدي زاجل نحن وبالبيت
لك هاللعبة منك قدها وحتفوت بالحيط وما تتفلسف علي انتي بالذات وما تتفلسف علي انتي بالذات
الكوف اوف خدنا بحلمك شي شوي يا خي وهات طلع لك بكم ردي من مستواك طلع لك بكم ردي من مستواك وإذا فكر حالك شغلي بالتيك توكات حط لي صوتي مرة وشوف اللايكات
صوتك حلو بيجنن متل فيروز لكن بالزاجل وحدة الكلمة بتفوز بعرفك غيران مني عم جيب فيوز تعلم يا حبيبي فني من الفيديوهات
يا باي صاير عم تحكي وتنصحني بفنك انت طول عمر الناس بتشهد انك انت طول عمر الناس بتشهد انك بتزيزق ما بتغني بتزيزق ما بتغني وجاي عم تحكي عني واذا فكرك انه فني فن وليداتي يا حبيبي اللي بيسمعني بيصرخ يا أشقر منك قدي بالرديات انت وفنك ما بشيلك ب5 فرنجات
قلك اوف اوف
I like how in parentheses it's worthless. Okay. This is so fucking cool. Especially with, like, coming up with notes and melodies, tunes to be singing while you're doing it, as well as with the words and responding to what people are saying. This is so creative. Like, holy shit.
خوف يا باي يا شادي التحدي كبير وانت منك من قده وهالردية شي تعتير منا زجل يشده شعرك ببين صغير المشعر يوقف حده أبياتك كلها تكسير شعرك أوافي
Exactly, rap
بده.
battles, poetry battles.
كبريائك صار كتير كبر وزاد عن حده جاك الأشقر يا فقير تيمسح فيك الساحات نعمل تحدي زاجل نحن وبالباد
الكوف اوف فاكر ايام الكنا نعمل جلسات وانت تبقى مضيعنا بكل النوتات.
I'll turn up the
انت
volume a
تبقى
little bit.
مضيعنا بكل النوتات. إلاك اعطيني عجم تعطي بيات والعالم كلها تفهم انه انطفت. ساعة اللي يسمعوا صوتك يكبوا الكاسات وتبقى على صوتي وحدة بتملى الكاسات. نعمل تحدي زاجل نحن وبالبات. نعمل تحدي زاجل نحن وبالبات.
الهيئة نسيت البدايات وعنتر عما تعمل لي. مين علمك المقامات؟ دخلك يا شادي اللي بين الصبا والبيات. يا ما كنت تضيع لي وجاي بهالرديات. بالزجل تتحدلي تذكر الزجل كاسات. من شعري أنا بملي بعلي بحلي بسلي وأنا البخلاق الجلسات. Thank you so much for watching my video, guys. This is my first YouTube video. I had no idea what I was doing. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you know Arabic, I hope you enjoyed the zajal. And if you don't, I hope you enjoyed learning about it. And see you in the next video.
Thank you for teaching us about zajal. I need a cigarette. I smoked one earlier today. There are some cool cigarettes, like the KOOL ones, that a friend brought me from Japan. They're very good. They're flavored because they're not allowed in Utah, which in my job and working for the Tobacco Prevention and Control Program, we work to limit flavored tobacco products, so whoops. Anyway, my goal there was mostly to decolonize. Working with community organizations was the best part by far. Especially working with local tribes in like facilitating any sort of like education about traditional tobacco. How to roll up the green kind. Need the cig to mix into the spliff. Amazing. 7 packs in 1 month. I mean, in 1 month, I feel like that's pretty good. All right, this is something else that you shared, Linton. Thank you so much, and namaste to you for these amazing finds. Also, I was not pronouncing it correctly. I was saying zajal, which is zajal. So, I apologize. Traditional zajal poetry by Fadi Fayed.
تكون قائد كلمتك كلمة. احمل سلاح المنطق العلمي وحمول شمعة نور تضوي الليل ولا تضل تشكي وتلعن الظلم. فكرك الخيال وكتابك خيل ودربك رسمها المنهج السلمي.
Which honestly, if you're getting cigarettes from indigenous people and tribes, a lot of the time it's healthier anyway. That's not to say like every single time, but if there are not all of these additives from big tobacco, these large companies owned by capitalists, like that's a great way to decolonize. Like what it was originally about is about tradition and ceremony. How we even got tobacco plants to begin with. That will change if you ever make it to Vietnam or China. Amazing. The tobacco bongs, yep.
احلم إذا للمجد عندك مايل ما أروعك تحلم بأهدافك وتوصل وتندى حققت حلمي. تتكون قائد همك التغيير وبالمجتمع تتكون شخصية. بالجامعة اتعب بعد تتصير وتحصل على شهادات علمية، وخلي التواصل منهج وتدبير بكل النواحي الاجتماعية. ولما النخوة تعوز قلب كبير كون بصفوف الطليعية، وساعة ما أرضك تطلب التحرير تنفس هوا لبنان حرية. استقوي على كل الناس بالتفكير، بس مش بالطائفة والدين والمرجعيات السياسية. وكلمة بوجهها لزملائي المبدعين، بقول يا قادة فكر يا قلاع الصلابي، على إلهامكن هالجيل رابي. تفوقكن عملتوا الفرق كله من مشاريع إبداع وإهابة. الغرب طاقاتهم عم يستغلوا، المبدع ملهم الجيل الشبابي. لأعلى مركز المبدع وصلوا بطريق الاقتراع الانتخابي. وتنقشع عقد لبنان حلوا، لازم قادة الإبداع هن يكونوا بالوزارة وبالنيابة. آخر مقطعين، بتعرفوا جاي مونديال هلا على لبنان، جاي مونديال كأس العالم، رح نحضره بلبنان، ما حنشارك أكيد. الفرق بين جمهور المونديال وجمهور الباسكتبول بلبنان وجه الشبه، قول 80,000 وأكثر شوية من شعوب شرقية وغربية، لبسوا حضارات الأمم عنوان ورسموا اللوحة المونديالية وخسر.
Didn't realize this didn't have subs. I know. I mean, unless you were like clicking on it and watching it through, there wasn't a way to know. Yeah, exactly. It sounds amazing.
بيهني خصم ربحان من نعمة الروح الرياضية. بتقشع برازيلي جنب طليان، وبتشوف روسي حد هندية، وأفقر طفل جاي شبه عريان جنب الملوك الرأسمالية. بطلع بتاني عين على لبنان، بي الحرف ببلاد شرقية، بلاقي الرياضة قسمة الأديان والطائفية لحن غنية. وبعرف وزير الأمن ناوي كان يلغي مباراة بكرة سلة أحسن ما تعمل حرب أهلية. يا شاب لبناني يا إنساني، الله عطاك شعور رباني. تقدر تروح تعيش باسطنبول وتصير تركي بفكر عثماني. تقدر تروح وتحترف فوتبول وتصبح برازيلي وألماني. بتقدر تروح وبتقدر تقلد إخوان الغول وتصير مكسيكي وأمريكاني. وفيك تتملك بليماسول وتصير قبرص بيتك الثاني. لكن حتى يصير فيك تقول انت لبناني مرجلاني، تفيا تحت في الارز عطول، وكل ما الخطر بدق عبابك احمل بارودة جيش لبناني. شكرا لكم.
Very cool. All right. Okay, so this was an article that you shared, Linton, that I think is excellent. Also, I do share the links for resources, videos that we go over on the stream in the Discord. Do I do this after every stream? No, I'll be honest about this, but I do try to do it sometimes. Okay. Tracing History, Identity in Palestinian Music. This is by the Palestine Conservatoire of Music Orchestra. Tracing the history of Palestinian music reveals a rich, textured tapestry of writing and symbolism. Palestinian folk music provides a glimpse of both the joy and struggles of the Palestinian people. Glimpse to both the joy and struggles of the Palestinian people. At the heart of that music is a reflection of the Palestinian experience, and most importantly, the Palestinian identity. Exactly. Free Palestine. Before the Nakba, little is known about the development of folk music prior to the 20th century. Oral tradition was the primary method of transmission for music and poetry, which were passed down through generations. Yeah, and so like when we talk about here of this like so-called like hysteria of declining literacy rates, it's like I think it's good for people to know how to read if that's what they are interested in. But most importantly, we should be focused on learning, which should not be exclusive to the written word, because the written word has historically been used by colonizers to impose this ethnic supremacist dominance, to invisibilize especially cultures where there are oral traditions. Al-Zajal, a poetry form traced back to as early as the 10th to 12th century, was the ancestor of Palestine's modern music. Zajal involved oral poetry backed by percussion, covering heavy topics like life, love, death, and nostalgia. Yep, sounds like poetry. Its presence was strongest in the Levant, where the influence on Palestinian tradition is apparent. In rural areas, farmers adopted a handful of working songs. Weddings were the hub of celebration and music, and the dabke was commonplace during wedding ceremonies. During the Ottoman period, Palestine was home to restless, traveling musicians who hosted local performances and concerts. Musicians and zajalins, storytellers who practiced zajal, traveled through Palestine en route to Egypt or other parts of the Levant. Prior to the occupation, the music of Palestine evolved rapidly, particularly during the British Mandate period. Western music began to dominate the global stage in the early to mid-1900s, which influenced Palestinian music. Palestinian musicians made use of the piano and guitar and took inspiration from jazz and classical music. So this is Jerusalem musicians. What's the name of this photo? That doesn't look like a photo. Looks like it's painted. Songs of resistance. After the tragedy of the Nakba, Palestinian music, particularly folk music, took a drastic shift. It stayed true to its roots while adopting themes of unity and embracing nationalism. The Palestinian nationalist movement long predates the Nakba, but it manifested in music more frequently and emphatically. The desire for self-determination wasn't a statement, it was a core part of the people's shared identity. Radio stations in Jerusalem were shut down, and the study of music continued in secret in Birzeit University. A small number of displaced composers kept creating music, evolving the Palestinian sound further from Western inspirations. Anthems speaking of displacement and violence, which focused on rallying people to the cause, were popular post-Nakba. After 1967, groups like Al-Baraim and Al-Ashikin infused the classic Palestinian sound with continued promotion of national identity. Composition modernized while nationalism reached a more widespread audience in Palestine and beyond. In the 80s, the famous band Sereen came into prominence. Composer Saeed Murad took inspiration from Palestinian poetry as well as Arab and Western music styles. The result was a distinct flavor of Palestinian music that defined the modern era. Sabreen's sharp songwriting highlighted the relevance of Palestinian identity in the contemporary age. Infamous rap group Dam released their first song in the late 90s, rapping in Arabic, English, Hebrew. They blend sounds across the Middle East in their sampling and were unafraid to speak on Palestinian politics, the 2000s and beyond. The first and second Intifada periods of severe political unrest saw a spike in protest music. The foundation of hip-hop group Ramallah Underground came at the height of the second Intifada and boasted politically charged music that resonated with youth culture. In an interview with Mixmag, the group's co-founder, Mukata, describes his experience as a colonized subject. He recounts the immense sadness he felt upon visiting Haifa, knowing his identity limited his ability to create music with friends outside the West Bank. In fact, the center of Mukata's new music is empowerment, demonstrating the significance of identity in Palestinian music. A key factor in the evolution of Palestine's music is the development of dabka as an art form. The emergence of electronic and Afro-Dabka is part of the modern era of Palestinian music and showcases identity in a unique way. Most notably, Arab Idol winner and prolific singer Mohammed Asaf released the defining song of the modern Palestinian resistance, Ana Dami Falistini, My Blood is Palestinian. Very cool. Palestinian identity is a rock that has weathered the storm of occupation and war. It has inspired the musical traditions and politics of neighboring countries while platforming a unique identity. Now the music of Palestine has taken a wide variety of forms, and it will continue to evolve. Nonetheless, identity will remain the foundation of Palestine's music and remain a salient point in songwriting. Through its expression in music, one thing is clear. Palestinian identity is built on undying hope. Amazing. Free Palestine. Free Palestine, free Sudan, free the Congo, free all oppressed people. Especially from imperialism. Okay, so this artist that you shared, Linton, Zajal Madi Sabah, I did want to share some of his content. I'm just choosing one of these. There's so many that look good. I mean, not like I'm even educated enough to know the difference. Whole lot of clips from all around the region showcased on that channel. Amazing. You're so thorough with your research. Thank you. Comments turned off.
يا أنس مالك زعلان شكلك والله عشقان ولي يا أنس مالك زعلان شكلك والله عشقان ولي يا الله ولد على الدنيا ما أسأل هاللي بشوف الوجوه بيزعل اللي عدينا عالتابوت بالهضبة بسنينه مبسوط وبالأخير من محمود وللجولان والله هو العشقان في مثله بالبلاد يا ابن السلك يا رواد وقت الجد وقت الجد والله ما بستبعد
Kind of a sudden ending. We have a short.
أنا اللي روح تعاني أسأل عن العراني وأنا لقيته متخبي ومتعلق جواني خزاني وما عنده أي ربي ولا عنده فطاني لو كان الميسيسيبي ما بيعبي للفنجان على أجانب في الدم يسأل عني اليوم.
Oh, this is from the same account. Okay.
طلت عليه أمي قالت له محمد عالشمس راح يعلم للأمي ولاكو عوار يعطي درس همك يا بني الهمي استسلم مزاح الميدان المرة أجا داري أجا دار الأكرم يتعلم من أفكاري يتعلم صار مثل البخاري صار اسمه المتيم إذا بيسكن جواري بيصير الأول بالزمان أنا مرة روحت عدارو أنكر أبواب ونكرة طلوا علي صغارو كلي بوجوده ما بندرة طلع مع مي كمارو وتزبى ورا الصبرة ندير العران عيارو أو جاي يكوي له بنيران الأجا عندي على الدور بالوفا يستناني وقفت
They're going in.
كثر ما في زجالي تعلمهم للشعور والفن الارتجالي كانوا العراني ناطور ما بحطوا بالبستان انا اللي روح اتعادر اسال عن العراني وانا لقيته متخبي.
Okay, let's watch this other short that you shared.
غني من اقوى الكلام بالك ابن ابو بسام عمل لك حاقل الغام واوعك تعلق بالكمين.
اللي يعلق بالي النعماني متعلي بالفطاني اعطيني هاي المهجاني او تاج بدو على الجنبين.
انا اسمي حوت ومن بيروت وباسمي بيتغنى الحوت السردين بقلبي يفوت وما راح تطلع يا سردين.
انا قبطان السفيني جلماوي فتح بي عيني بدي مثلك دزيني بدللهم على الايدين.
انا حي سيد ولابو العم ابو العم يشيل الهم للحبايب كيفه كمل ورد الجوري والياسمين.
قادر هالليلي ارد الجلماوي لو على مجده جايين الليلي وحده وانا بدي منه 2000.
الله يعينك بالمجال ما إلك على ارتجال لو انك بحجم جبال وراح شيلك على الاصبعين.
That's the first time I noticed.
من اقوى الكلام قبالك ابن ابو بسام.
That was not made very clear. Well, I guess there's a guy's head there. No, expecting. I love that though. A couple that I could find with translation. I don't know how complete they are since direct translations can be hard. No, that's true. Thank you for sharing those too. I know maybe there are some. There's some more shorts. There's so many. Incredible. I'm curious about this, the most recent one.
الوسط وحاجب نسر تصيد البط راح ارفع بالصدر الضغط وبدك ابرد تكلو فيه
بصدش البط انا عالدور ومتعود اصيد نصور اما البلبل العصفور قصير بعد الجناحين.
انا مش متعود على هالسولا على البط ولا على الوز ضربة كف لز بلز الطوبة وارض الصيد.
انا جبت العتمة وجبت النور وجبت الصور وجبت سطور جبت اسنان الديناصور واعطيت البلبل نابين.
لك جبت الفوق وجبت التحت وجبت سرير وجبت التحت وجبت الفرح وجبت المجد ولا فرح قلب الحزين.
بتغلبني بالسهرية وبشهد كل الاهلية اذا بتشوف الحي بتمشي ع 4 جرين.
انا عراني ما بترهبني وبكلامك ما بتعجبني بس بمرة بتغلبني انصفيت حمية بسني.
يا بلبل هدي لجنونك الليلي بدي جفنونك بتغلبني شافوا عيونك اخلند يقيلوا عينين.
اخلند يخسك لك الركاب وبرضه يكسر لك الركاب. هد الباب افتحت الباب 12 باب على الميل. يا عراني حس الوسط.
Okay, there was this artist Sereen that came out with a new song that you shared, Linton, that this is my first time reacting. I'm very excited to hear this song. She has such incredible art. Wildly talented. That's the adult drink speaking right now.
الدورية وبلادي فلسطينية والأرض المقدسية عادي نفتيها بالأرواح.
What you know about life in the West? To sit back, observing, I'm on a side quest. To bit back my words and I wanna fight next. To sit trapped in bird's nest, I'm under white stress. Possessed, now it's in the press. Eyes on all sides, there's a guy in a vest. Assessed, holding my breath, dark skin, brown eyes with his hand on his chest. Shots fired, take cover, take flight. Bombs wide, black flags, white lives. Ceasefire, white men on files. Our lives, headlines on trial. Black lives, another death in prison. Gold mine, going wet to blood thickening. Palestini, راح يموت بالسجن. I couldn't give a fuck, now we gon' keep on living. ببلش بالعربي فبتفتش الشنطة عالظهري بتناقش بقهري وأنا تكة حيضرب حتشوفوا بتكهرب بين انتماء بين احتلال people can stomach they stay in denial بين ابتلاء بين الخيال do not be concerned is what you tell yourself gunfire take cover take flight bombs wide black flags white lives ceasefire Epstein on files under 5 damn sick pedophiles black lives another death in prison gold mine go and watch the blood thicken Palestine راح يموت بالسجن I couldn't give a fuck but now we gon' keep on living
The writing
Watch your
is
step, how you
incredible.
dress, but a mess.
The writing, like how you're saying the zajal sample, yeah, it all just talking about liberation and humanity, like humanizing and also resistance. But the music itself, even like the format of it, is so creative and original. Like even the electronic, like the synths there that are like, that was not a great representation of what it was just doing, but it's all of these choices that build to make something that is truly great.
But the turning my image on the press.
That's the synth I was talking about.
Watch your step, how you dress, what a mess. But the turning my image on the press.
Incredible. Queer applause. That is such a cute emote, Dina. Okay. I was gonna bring in something that I wanted to show for Culture Corner, a recent record that I got because I'm pretentious and I like listening to records. But also the more of like physical media I have, the more I'm like, okay, I exist in the real world. We exist in a world with physical things and it can't just be taken at any moment and hidden behind a paywall, you know, all of that. I did want to show this song while I go get that record that I'm excited to show you all. This is Fatimata Diawara Tati Bakari. Yeah, exactly. Free Palestine. And for those of you who don't know, the cat carrying the Palestinian flag, that was an emote that Linton created. The emotes that we have here are ones that Linton made. That is one of my cats, Juniper, and then the white cat is Kit. Okay. I've seen this before, so I know what is in store. But I will play this while I'm getting this record. Juniper getting strong, waving the flags, I know. Okay, I'll be right back.
Say foyere atonga nga blues ni ndoda ye atati bakari changa nga blues ni ndoda ye la niara ninna niara ninna niara ninna me do dokida yoro sumaya
Stunning. In memory of my father, Tati Bakari. Have the lyrics just talking about loss and grief and pain and death of loved ones, but also like transmuting it into something beautiful, like still continuing with life after and honoring loved ones who have passed on. Yeah, I really enjoy Fatimata Diawara. She's from Mali, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah. Malian singer-songwriter and actress. Currently living in France? Didn't know that. Yeah, the like styling and the shots of that music video too, just stunning. Incredible. Okay. I have another song. But first, Tina, you just subbed? Thank you. Aww. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Welcome. We're glad to have you here. All right. This is the record that I got. Let's see. There we go. That's better. This is the Prince album by, you guessed it, Prince. This was Prince's second album, and his first album, oh god, I should know this. I fucking love Prince so much. Prince albums. I just don't want to misspeak. For You. I was about to say Love for You, but that's wrong. I meant just sub to the singer. Oh, I mean, amazing. Love that too. And no need to apologize. That's on me for misinterpreting. Incredible. Yeah, go support her. She's an incredible artist, making amazing music. Yeah, so Prince's album, his first album, For You, he wrote when he was 19, and it did not get a whole lot of notice. And for this second album, there were many executives that, especially at the label that he was with, they were hesitant to be even encouraging to have him on for a second album because the first one didn't do that well. For You, by the way, all of Prince's albums are incredible. I'm really glad that young people, it seems, especially those like who are on TikTok more, in the way I'm saying that, you can tell that I'm not on TikTok. That I don't know if it's Prince's music being used more or Prince just being venerated more. Whatever the cause is, I'm really glad that young people seem to be liking Prince more these days. I think that's great for culture. No, you're good. I also just misinterpreted, so no worries. This album, Prince, is really what shot him into stardom, especially with I Want to Be Your Lover. Like, I got no money. I like those other guys hang round. Like that song. I love every single song on this album. And there is one song, Bambi, that is incredible, especially when it comes to like his solos in it, that is problematic in the way that it is about he's trying to convince a woman to be with him instead of other women. So that's not what I would prefer, but also like Prince being very queer in presentation, also speculatively queer in identity, but not like openly. At least like talking about his sexuality. Clearly he was a magnet just for human beings, I think. Yes, Water, Prince is awesome. I fucking love Prince. And Prince does a ton of growing throughout the course of that whole career. Yeah, exactly. And with so many styles, so much change. Exactly. Ugh, I love that we're talking about Prince. Because of him going from like more disco sounds and like funk and to like punk sounds and rock, clearly just all over the place, like an R&B, where he not only was such a talented songwriter, because he was in terms of like being original and also having things that were very catchy, but he also was able to like have that balance of creating something that sounds familiar while still having it be something new and attributed to his own sound. Early jazz funk Prince is priceless. I know. He has so many good eras. Just style icon, the fashion. He also, like, not only was just like super hot. But just so original and unapologetically himself, of like not willing to, like, when people were like, so how exactly, like, who are you fucking exactly? And him just being like, I'm just me, okay? Also him being like, I'm not a woman or a man. I'm something you'll never understand. Lyrics that he wrote. Like, when I first heard Prince, that was a moment in culture where I felt like it changed my brain chemistry. Like, I think the first song I heard by Prince was Kiss. That is very, like, stereotypical, I guess. But, I was like, who is this? I was an RC Willie. I remember. It's like a very Utah. I don't think they're exclusive to Utah. Maybe there are some in Idaho, but they're a furniture store. And I have a thing, especially with music, of like, if I hear something that I'm enjoying, that's like all I can focus on. I'm like, who is this? I remember that very distinctly. Also, we were in RC Willie, like, going to get free hot dogs, and I like could not care less about it. I was like, I have to know who this is. So that really, and then like seeing Prince, and also with like Prince's gender presentation, the non-binary, like, inner me was like, yeah, yeah. The queer conundrum of being like, do I want to be someone? Do I want to be with someone? You know? But Prince is such an incredible technician when it comes to musicianship, that, like, he was a wildly talented instrumentalist. Like, especially with these first two albums that he wrote, For You and this, he played all of the instruments. So recording took a very long time because he played all of the instruments, but he was so incredibly prolific of releasing a ton of albums. But like, let's see. Like, all of the acknowledgments. Yeah, all selections written by Prince, so him writing all of the lyrics, him playing all of these instruments. He had remixed by Prince as well. He didn't like engineer exclusively, so like this is engineered by Gary Brandt, but he did help with a lot of the engineering with a lot of his albums. He was very hands-on with his art. So like the concept created by Prince, him on a Pegasus. Like, are you kidding? This is perhaps one of my favorite songs on this album. Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad. It features such a hard guitar solo that we need to share. The fact that like Prince was so wildly multi-talented, and also by some, like, him not being acknowledged by like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as one of the like lead, like, best guitarists of all time, it led him to have this moment of like performing for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where he just outperformed everybody in this live performance with all of these like basic white dudes, and he goes on stage, and I may have to play that after this. I'll find that. blowout. So even though we're seeing all of these people in the background, in order for him to be doing this recording of this music video, doing it live, he, in order to create the track itself, was able to do all of these parts. He's like a modern day Mozart, but hotter. Also, he can dance. Stage presence. That's not something you can teach someone. People can get like better at it, but like yeah, you either have it or you don't. He also popularized a lot of the synth sounds that were very common in the 80s, that like, because this album came out in 1979, that this was pretty new of a sound. This guitar solo. Like what? That guitar solo like gets me hot. The like sapiosexual experience. I'm like, what is the sexuality of just like being turned on by talent? That's probably just called human. Maybe. And also he's such an incredible vocalist. Like, yeah, this is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I was talking about earlier. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, written by George Harrison, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Steve Winwood, Donnie Harrison, and Prince. Donnie, so that is a Hindi name because George Harrison liked Indian culture. He even learned how to play the sitar from Ravi Shankar's wife. So, you know, there is like a problematic history there, but I think he in general tried to be respectful, but also like popularizing the sound of the sitar, of it kind of giving a permission structure for white people to be like engaging in more Orientalism and such. This is the fact that Prince is listed last is shameful. But this is a tribute to George Harrison. So they're like, okay, we have to include his son. still not access the Discord messages. Okay, thank you for letting me know. I will check that out after this. Sorry about that. Can you see the ones that, like, you have sent, or is it just ones in the past? Idiots. That's who. Also, Prince, he's like, steps forward into the light. We're going to show you what true... Compared to what these dudes were doing, like, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. Yeah, it seems like it was also very racist. I don't even know who was on the list, but like Prince should have been at the top. Prince often, I think now in hindsight, people are like, oh, Prince was an incredible instrumentalist in addition to a singer and just like artist in general. But like, that's what's hard about when people are ahead of their time. They often are not given the credit that they deserve during their lifetime. VOB 100% clears every single musician on that list. Has not seen anything like this before. Did you see his face? Prince leaning against someone. He's like, not only am I going to show you what technical skill is like, I'm going to put on a show. We have to be united in some way. He has to like dial it back because they can't keep up. He throws his guitar and leaves. As he fucking should. That is what we call performance. All right. Per usual, I had so many things planned that I was like, will we be able to get to everything? Probably not. I do think I will be streaming tomorrow though, so I'll let you know. Through the Discord, or if you have your Twitch notifications turned on and you're following. Also, I announced it on Instagram and TikTok. Am I active on these platforms? No. Do I plan to be even more active? I don't know about this. I can't promise anything. But there's this submission that you shared, Linton. Okay. I know I have said that we're going to talk about Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, and I keep putting it off because I keep planning too many things. But I think I'll show this tomorrow. Culture Corners. Culture Weekend. Does culture ever end? Culture cannot be confined. Culture cannot be cornered. Okay, I'll stop. This is by Nux Masquerade, and I have not listened to this song or watched this music video, so I'm excited for this reaction. Oh, wait, I should probably refresh it so it doesn't yell at me. Dina, thank you for subscribing. I greatly appreciate you. Yay! I hope you don't feel guilted into it. All the same, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you. Welcome to the community. Using the emotes that Linton made. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying.
Yo,
I'm excited to have you
I've been telling
here.
myself before anything else I'm an African man. I've been to the village, I know all my kin like the back of my hand. I've been dealing with women and feelings that you couldn't catch if you can. I run till I'm back to my head on your lap. On my
What? Okay, already. So fucking cool. The masks. The dress. Traditional dress. Damn, the heart got split on my end by the formatting. Which heart? With the cats? It's looking pretty pristine on my end. Oh, he already has captions. I'll turn these bitches off.
on the sun. Big house in the belly of Britain, but still eating okra soup. They don't understand I'm an African man, what you want me to do? I have mine with a spoon, they thinking I'm cool, we're trying to be bougie. I learned it from school when boarding they ruled, your hands are for duty. Yeah, counting
in
the
the
racks.
previous message.
Yeah, hand on
Okay,
the backs.
gotcha.
Wait, thought it was different. Wait, that was a knack. Wait, could this really be the same knocks that was using the bucket to bath? Or the one that won't pick up the phone cause you don't want to trouble the staff?
Okay, not to be annoying, this song is not long enough. Already, we're more than halfway through? No. I'm gonna, because I'm not familiar with Nux, I'm going to be looking up his stuff. Once again, incredible recommendation, Linton. Thank you very much. It is the sign of a true artist if you know how to have levels to a piece. I mean, whatever it is, but like for musicians specifically, of like letting the melody in the background to breathe, of like it being a pretty like simple melody and then building and building so you actually have somewhere to go. The Trere t-shirt in the beginning, yep.
Yo, a story my mom used to tell me that happened in Nige when I was a baby. They threw a parade in the village with dancing and drinking in front of the ladies. This one had a masquerade that came, my mom had me up on her waist.
Do you see like the color grading of these shots, like the places that they're shooting as well, like the styling along with it, just so like the aesthetics are just incredible, and then just complement the sound. Music videos for this album went so hard. It seems like it. We probably have enough time for what you shared, Linton, and then what you're sharing, Bunso, and then we'll get into the reading.
They thought that I gasped but pulled the little mask right off of his face. It kind of reminds me of problems I've gone through today. Pulled off the mask on a couple of things, and since then it wasn't the same. If you knew the half, you wouldn't believe me. It come like a movie. If you saw the mask I pulled in my past, you think I was running with Scooby. Yo, I've been telling myself before anything else I'm an African man. I've been to the village, I know all my kin like the back of my hand. I've been dealing with women and feelings that you couldn't catch if you can. I run till I'm back to my head on your lap, on my back on the sand.
Yep. T-shirt at the beginning. Incredible. This is a song that I've been wanting to play for Culture Corner. Maybe we'll play this tomorrow. Yeah, you can suggest a song, Aliana. We probably have enough time for this one from Linton, and then yours, and then we'll get into the reading. I can be shy about like when my own videos come up, so I try to just ignore it. Like all the recommended. My name is my name. Yeah, and from what you were saying, Linton, of like this album being about him reclaiming culture that has been colonized out of his identity, like that is so powerful. Have you heard of a cure for paranoia? No. Ooh. I'm excited to learn more.
Yo, what's really in the name? Known as a man of many in theory, but really I'm the same. But everyone has history, and it goes merely as it came. It's the same with your pick-me. I'm my father's son like he picked me. Away, at 12 was spending for self-hope, warning was jail when the cell pulled me. 14 got a bit more keen, 16 got my kicks so clean. 18 had the same regime, but was playing the game while the game played me. Did plenty at 19 and 20, my name in your mouth, now right on your telly. Had dreams of being the man at 12 with a gold rollie on my hand. Now the gold rollie on my hand, is that a dream or really a plan? Family calling me a fam, like I'm down to the road to keep family close. Back when I felt that was a fault, then I did feel like gladly I don't. It was a feeling I carried alone till I landed from nights like honey, I'm home. Then I end up changing my name. Glad then, but today I'm ashamed. They always fucked up my shit in assembly. Denji, I looked to my sister with envy, cause she got called by an English name. And I wish the same, but what's really in the name? Known as a man of many in theory, but really I'm the same. But everyone has history, and it goes merely as it came. It's the same with your pick-me. I'm my father's son like he picked me. Away, at 12 was spending for self-hope, warning was jail when the cell pulled me. 14 got a bit more keen, 16 had my kicks so clean. 18 had the same regime, but was playing the game while the game played me. Did plenty at 19 and 20, my name in your mouth, now right on your telly. Started uni, they like me already, like how have we met? Yeah, my name is Ashley. My name had a ring, it's catchy. Base thought I was great like Gatsby, but I weren't moving subtle enough, I changed it from knuckles to nuts. She pre my ID on the first day for my surname, but I covered it up. Now I barely hear AF, I'm at all, but I'm moving with tact and I'm fashionable. All telling the baddies to call man Ash, come when talking and yash, I'm catching them all. Was in the back of the lecture room getting my name wrong, feeling like AA Ron. But now I'm indoors with a bunch of awards with my long ass African name on. But what's really in the name? Known as a man of many in theory, but really I'm the same. But everyone has history, and it goes merely as it came. It's the same with your pick-me. I'm my father's son like he picked me. Away, at 12 was spending for self-hope, warning was jail when the cell pulled me. 14 got a bit more keen, 16 had my kicks so clean. 18 had the same regime, but was playing the game while the game played me. Did plenty at 19 and 20, my name in your mouth, now right on your telly.
Yeah, I'm saying covering up his last name because people don't know how to say it. I can relate to that. Damn. That's another really good one. Ooh. Failed State, American Anarchist song.
When you're working
Singer-songwriter
two jobs
David
and
Lovitz.
living in a tent, when a house costs $1 million and you can't pay the rent, when politicians say they'll help but it keeps getting worse each time the landlord lobby pulls the strings of the purse, when the human right to housing isn't even part of the debate, you know you're living in a failed state.
Well, exactly.
When millions of citizens are spending
Sure
half
about
their
the production
lives
credits
locked up in a prison for
Ooh, I
trying
love
to
that.
survive. When laws must be broken just to
That's
have
really
a
cool.
place to stay. When the prisons pay the senators to look the other way. If you have to be a criminal to put food upon your plate, you know you're living in
Yeah,
a
a
failed
criminal.
state. When you're facing climate breakdown, when the trees are all on fire, when half the country's underwater, when a climate change denier runs the nation and the opposition party votes for oil rigs and pipelines. This is not so much a country as it is a corporation. Buckling under its weight, you know you're living in a failed state.
Yep, when the country is a corporation supporting corporations, that's capitalism.
When your nation is an empire facing daily blowback, and the only thing your leaders can think to do is attack, bipartisan consensus that we need to spend $700 billion before military budget to make America great. You know,
Yep.
you're living in a failed state.
When did this come out? 2026? Oh, but it was in 2017.
When almost every day some psycho with a gun has to open fire on a crowd before it's done. When a music festival becomes a free fire zone and all they can say is it's okay now, he was acting alone. Buy some armor, pray to God, and hide behind a gate. You know you're living in a failed state. You know you're living in a failed state.
Yep. Where's
You know
the lie?
You're living in a failed state.
Another great suggestion. Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's get into a little bit of this prep for the reading, because we have been talking about witches. There is this podcast I've been listening to called The Witches of Scotland, as I am trying to learn more to provide more context for Macbeth. I mean, and also just to learn. They are embarking on this project to actually talk about the real history of Scotland and these witch hunts, that they are related completely to the fact that King James in Shakespeare's time, King James the Sixth of Scotland, the First of England, that he was trying to so-called unite England, Scotland, and Ireland, when really it was just expansion, colonization, the imposed domination of this imperialist structure on the indigenous people there, and that witches were used as a way to fearmonger and to diminish, dehumanize people, quite literally demonize people, in order to justify this expansion because of the conflation of religion and politics. Does that sound familiar? It's not like what has been happening all across the world is anything new. Why we have to be talking about it in terms of these colonized structures, especially, and as ways to impose non-consensual domination on people, especially when it comes to indigenous peoples. So this is from this podcast. This is episode 3. This is where they start talking about King James, I believe.
There are some great, there's a couple of great stories from Ireland, and I'll just mention one briefly in passing. One of them is the story of a woman called Florence Newton in Youghal in Cork. She's an interesting one. She was actually taken up as a witch in a mould we might recognise happening in Scotland. It was
So, talking about the interrelated nature of this same thing of witch hunts happening in Ireland as well as Scotland, even though Scotland had disproportionately more witch hunts, witches, so-called witches, that were killed in Scotland.
community. And so there's something quite interesting about the idea that maybe with plantation in Ireland, some of the witch persecution issues were taken with them. Sorry to use a flippant phrase, but she's a bit of the cookie cutter of the woman who's, perhaps got dementia or is a bit socially kind of unusual, and she's poor, she's begging, and she's accused.
Oh no, I should have known. This happens if I have a tab open for a while. If I haven't opened it the day of.
About the idea that maybe with plantation in Ireland.
Yeah, so we're seeing them acknowledge, I wish in this podcast they would acknowledge class even more, as well as colonization more, of like using that kind of terminology, but they kind of talk around it. So I think it still is good for educational purposes, especially when they are talking to so many historians, and this history is often buried and written to reflect the colonizer's perspective. Surprise, surprise.
The witch persecution issues were taken with them. Sorry to use a flippant phrase, but she's a bit of the cookie cutter of the woman who's, perhaps got dementia or is a bit socially kind of unusual, and she's poor, she's begging, and she's accused of witchcraft. And then this whole story goes up about the fact that if she kisses you, you'll die. Of course, psychosomatic. Lots of people do then become ill when she's kissed them. And it's a sad story, but the one that I've had in my mind a long time, because it's quite a famous story, is the story of Petronilla de Meath. She was effectively accused of witchcraft, but Ireland had no witchcraft legislation. This is the 1300s, and Petronilla was a servant in Kilkenny in the house of a woman called Dame Alice Keiteler. And actually, if you visit Kilkenny, there's a lot about Dame Alice. And I forget now the name of the author, but there is a gorgeous collection of stories in which Dame Alice appears, still being alive today, having bought her immortality through various means, but still regretting what happened to Petronilla de Meath, which is essentially that she was taken up when Dame Alice's enemies decided, for similar reasons that we've discussed with Euphemia McLean, Dame Alice's enemies decided to stop her. She was very powerful. She was very wealthy. She was actually so powerful that when she was accused of witchcraft, she was able to invoke the protection of powerful enough family members that she got out. And what she left behind was Petronilla de Meath, her servant, who was then
having
burned
connections
in Kilkenny. And there's a suggestion, more in oral tradition than anywhere else, that Dame Alice took Petronilla's daughter with her. But who knows if Alice could have taken Petronilla or not. But
It
I mean,
was the next
Petronilla,
episode they were talking about King James. Whoops.
some amazing statements. And I've got one here that the Bishop of Ossory wrote down her statement. She said that with her own eyes she had seen the aforesaid demon appear in the form of 3 black men, each carrying an iron rod in the hand. I note in passing that the black men stuff is brilliantly racist. And while Petronilla herself was watching, the apparition had intercourse with Alice. After this disgraceful act, with her own hand, she wiped clean the disgusting place with linen from her own bed. And you just think, what a bunch of perverts imagining what women were up to.
Yeah, the detail of it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say, Zoe. It's the bizarre details that they go into. Wow.
So it's very early, far too early for Ireland to have thought up having any witchcraft legislation. So as I say, she was tried under the heresy laws and she was burned as a heretic, but she is broadly considered to be Ireland's first woman to die as a witch.
Okay, maybe that's why I saved this part, is to show that, like, even before King James' time, that he wrote a book on demonology so that he could define his enemies and to justify all of this expansion under his imperialist ambitions, but that this concept of targeting certain groups of people, especially women, especially if there are traditions that are more matriarchal, that are challenging these other systems of patriarchy, of being cisgender, of heteronormativity, of ableism, where we see how these people with their political power often engage in a lot of types of propaganda, and how there is a disproportionate targeting of people from the working class, especially, people who are marginalized in many ways, so have multiple intersections of marginalization, that this can't be separated as being viewed as a threat to these larger powers who are wanting to dominate. So this clearly goes hand in hand with what we are reading in Macbeth. It also has to do with the characterization of Lady Macbeth, where essentially, like in the previous scene that we read yesterday, she, it looks like, was invoking some sort of powers to say, like, unsex me here, which means, like, she doesn't want to be female or have these traits that are associated with femininity that are often imposed on people to be more submissive and subservient to who are considered men or male, and how this was viewed as supposedly very chilling to Shakespeare's audience, but he, in first and foremost, was targeting King James to be in his favor because King James was incredibly paranoid about his own power, worried that he would be unseated, that he was paranoid about witches because he was like, who else could go against me? Because I have the divine right of kings. And so he then has to justify his own rule by writing a book on demonology and witchcraft, and then having a version of the Bible be written, which is the King James Bible. So we see how religion, divine rule of kings, divine right of kings, colonization, political agendas, how all of these are aligning in Shakespeare's time, but really how this has not changed. Humans are really not that original a lot of the time. So sadly, I wish there was a little more creativity there, but he even went to the extent to write a book on demonology and be like, okay, this is the version of the Bible that we're using. But Shakespeare was definitely appealing to him in order to continue to have his art be made. So it also highlights the issue of artists, where artists feel the need to appeal to the ruling class, to capitalists, to people with money, aristocracies. This has been a thing throughout time in order to feel like they're able to create the art that they want, to continue to have a livelihood. But why we need to decenter this way of thinking and supporting artists, that it is much better if we are supporting each other from the working class, because then we have more freedom in what we can do and say as artists. And then we are actually building support outside of these capitalist colonizing systems too. Okay, so we left off with Macbeth arriving home at Inverness. This is where Lady Macbeth is as well. The king is arriving. And we are on scene 6. So this is stage direction. Hot boys. I mean, same. Hot boy. Which means oboes and torches. So that is written as a stage direction to have oboes and torches be present. Enter King Duncan, Malcolm, Donalbain, Banquo, Lennox, Macduff, Ross, Angus, and attendants. King Duncan. This castle hath a pleasant seat. The air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses. Banquo. Oh boy, I don't remember what voice I This is my constant dilemma. I don't remember the voices I do. Oh, wait. Okay, I think I do remember. Banquo. This guest of summer, the temple haunting martlet, does approve, by his loved masonry, that the heaven's breath smells wooingly here. Footnote. Temple haunting martlet, a bird, the martin, that often builds its nest in churches. Okay. No jutty frieze, jutty meaning projection. No jutty frieze, buttress, nor coign or of vantage, meaning convenient corner. But this bird hath made his pendant bed and procreant cradle, where they most breed and haunt. I have observed the air is delicate. Enter Lady Macbeth. King Duncan. See, our honoured hostess. The love that follows us sometime is our trouble, which still we thank as love. Footnote. Love bestowed upon us sometimes causes us inconvenience, but we are still grateful for it. So they're trying to portray King Duncan as being benevolent, but also like, maybe we would like the king even more if he wasn't a king. if maybe the working class actually had more autonomy and not all of these rulers and aristocrats that were hoarding wealth and power. Herein I teach you how you shall bid God yield us for your pains and thank us for your trouble. Footnote. Ask God to reward, yield me for the trouble I cause you. Lady Macbeth. All our service and every point twice done, and then done double, were poor and single business to contend against those honours deep and broad wherewith your majesty loads our house. For those of old, and the late dignities heaped up to them, we rest your hermits. Footnote. We remain your beadsmen, meaning monks hired to pray for their employers, so like rosary beads, I'm guessing. King Duncan. Where's the Thane of Cawdor? We coursed him at the heels and had a purpose to be his purveyor. But he rides well, and his great love, sharp as his spur, hath holp him to his home before us. Holp meaning help. We have another footnote, meaning a purveyor. Attendants who preceded the king when he traveled and procured foodstuffs for the royal party. So, like, he went very quickly with his purveyors, the attendants, because he was missing his love, his wife. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guest tonight. Lady Macbeth. Your servants ever have theirs themselves, and what is theirs in count to make their audit at your highness's pleasure, still to return your own. Another footnote. Your servants hold all they have in trust from you, and they are always ready to settle accounts and return to you what is yours. King Duncan. Give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host. We love him highly, and shall continue our graces towards him. By your leave, hostess. By your leave, meaning like, with your permission. A request for permission to leave, or perhaps for a formal kiss. Oh, I haven't heard that. By your leave as being like a request for a kiss. I have heard it meaning like to get permission to leave, or like with, just saying with your permission in general. Okay, that's the end of scene 6. So I guess maybe that's fine that we didn't really get to more of the like history of Hecate and witchcraft when that wasn't quite as relevant to this scene. It continues to be relevant just with all of these prophecies and predictions, readings by the witches, but we will see them again. We will also have Hecate be featured, especially in Act 3, but I do want to set the scene for that before we actually get there, so we have the education for it. Okay. That was a long setup for a short scene, but there you go. That is scene 6. And I do think I'll be able to stream tomorrow. If you're part of the Discord, I will let you know for sure. Either way, I'll also be figuring out the permissions for the Discord. But anyway, it was lovely having you all here. Well, thank you, Dina. Thank you for subscribing, even if it was coerced for you. And Heltran. Is there someone that we can raid? Someone who is on right now? I'm gonna look up a browser. I think... Oh, I thought Shovda was on, but she said that she's sleeping right now. I mean, we can still go support, but if there's anyone else... Let me see. Okay. Didn't see if Fumalina was on. I can suggest one. Yeah, please do. Anyone you'd recommend? I love doing raids, especially because, like, as many of you know, I'm not always, like, attached to my devices or, like, chronically online. I will never be accused of that. Gray goo glitch. Ooh, okay. I don't know who this is, but I'm excited to see what they're up to. Thank you, Dina. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you all for being here. It was wonderful to have you all. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, wherever you are. And I will see you soon, hopefully. All right. In 3, 2, behave yourselves. Okay, bye.